Hey everyone, welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 129, Black Tech Talk. I'm here with my co-facilitator Lionel. He will be back in a few minutes. Tonight we're going to talk about Agritech and cannabis grow opportunities. If you want to follow along, the docket is in the description beneath the video. Please hit the like button as you come in, and we will get started. So the first question on the docket is, what is Agritech? So Agritech, in more or less words, is basically traditional agriculture leveraging next generation technology for growth and expansion and the enrichment. So you're thinking about farms, whether they're traditional farms in the middle of rural America, or you're talking about um, new farmings in urban environments that leverage technology such as IoT, such as 5G, 4G connections, Wi-Fi capabilities, WiMAX capabilities, fiber optic, um, and as well as like white spaces as well for communication, using IoT for measuring, you know, weather, when to grow crops, when not to grow crops, leveraging the next generation technology to actually enrich your agricultural development. So what we're starting to see in the last maybe 10 to 15 years is farmers actually relying on non-traditional methods for farming, and getting an advantage and using that advantage to actually speed up the process for agricultural development, whether it's uh, growing crops in the ground, or for your cattle, your pork and things of that nature. There's ways to utilize some of this technology to actually boost your agricultural business. So we're starting to see more of that now, and I think that it's at a stage where it's not as mature as, let's say, Windows 10 is compared to what Windows 95 was. But we are right now in the agritech sector. We are where, let's say, Windows Windows 98, maybe the second edition, but it keeps rapidly increasing every single year. So you may see a jump from Windows 98 to, let's say, Windows XP to Windows 7. That's the sort of transition that we're seeing right now, and this is happening maybe every 6 to 9 months. You're starting to see more development take place because the emergence of technology coming out is just making everything more robust. So that's why agritech is actually taking off now. And it's making it more affordable for everybody to get involved. So there's a place for an IT person on the farm now that wasn't there before. My ice is colder. What's going on, brother? So I think that having this talk tonight is actually where we want to be, um, in terms of Black Tech Talk, because traditionally in this country, um, coming out of slavery, Black people were farmers. There was a lot of farming going on, whether it was free slaves or your uh, your um, your sharecroppers. My ear, Israel, what's going on? Um, so we see this area of opportunity to actually be invested in, because land is something that everybody needs in order to first be sovereign, but you also need to harvest, right? So there's an urgency to start, for Black people to get into the agricultural business through agritech. So that's why we're having this discussion tonight. Please hit the like button as you come in. So that's where we are right now with the first question. I know if you have anything you want to add to that, you can feel free to circle back to that question. So question number two, what are the business cases for Agritech? Business cases for Agritech, you know, better, better, going from putting it in the ground, planting your crops in the ground, or harvesting in the ground to actually going to the marketplace is what this is about. So that's the business case for this. The main business case. There's multiple business cases for this. What this is the area that I'm focusing on for right now. That you have the ability now with technology to say something as small as a carrot or even an avocado, to put that sort of to put that fruit or that vegetable onto the blockchain and get it to the grocer through a logistics supplier. Let's say a trucking company who moves produce, that goes onto the truck, and it goes from the truck to the retailer, to the marketplace, and you know about it because you can look it up online, because the blockchain is immutable, and you see the sort of produce there. You know when it was born, you know when it was planted, you know who planted it. You also know what the expiration date would be, best date eaten. All types of data comes from this. Where it was grown. Quite a few areas that you can actually get into. What's going on, Jack Charles? So quite a few areas that you can actually get into, and I don't think that we should be left out of this, right? We should actually be able to take advantage of this. A few lines of code that need to be written, data analytics. So those are the business cases for that, and it also helps for the marketplace, right? So you have multiple startup sort of grocers that are saying we want to buy local and we want to buy from minority businesses or black businesses and so on and so forth. You can actually do that now by having, this sort of agritech um, infrastructure in place. And with traditional agricultural skills, you can now leverage technology as an infrastructure to better better the supply chain to the marketplace. So that's the business case for that. So you imagine, instead of shipping something way across the country, you're gonna have to buy that local, and you're gonna get something that was picked. Whether it's carrots or whatever it is, beets or whatever it is, you're gonna get something that was picked on Monday, and it's gonna be at the store by Tuesday morning, ready to go. You'll probably see something like a QR code on there, and with a QR code, you're gonna see all types of information that you can pull up from it. Who planted it? What kind of ingredients was used in it? The soil. Quite a few bits of information that typically you didn't see before, but you're going to be able to see it now, because that data can be implemented through through data entry, and then you have data analytics, and then you have data science, and so on and so forth, and people can actually give feedback and say, hey, I like such and such produce or whatever it is, and it came from that local business that was 6 blocks away or 10 blocks away, whatever it is.
Yeah, hello.
What's going on, Lionel?
Not much yourself. How you doing?
All right, brother. Go ahead.
Yeah, just got back.
I'm on question number 2. If you want to add something to question number 1, feel free. Or if you got any questions about question number 1.
No, I don't.
Okay. So question number 2 is what are the business cases for Agritech? I just went over how you would be able to leverage Agritech as a business, right? For a business case perspective. I don't know if you heard anything.
No, I didn't.
Okay. So basically what I was saying was that the business case for Agritech would be, at least one out of the many business cases would be, I can take, if Lionel was a farmer, a urban farmer, and he has, these little farms and stuff set up, a greenhouse set up. Then whatever carrots and other sort of goods that you're planting and or you're harvesting, um, that stuff, that information about each and every single um, crop that is being picked from a farm perspective can actually be put on a blockchain, and that information can be um, visible to the public. So you can make it visible in terms of who picked it, when it was planted, um, what's the expiration date, what's the delivery date on it, so on and so forth. What kind of soil was used, um, what kind of environment it was, what was the temperature, so on and
Mm-hmm.
so forth. And that information can be put onto a blockchain, and then that helps the marketplace determine um, where they should shop and pick up their wholesale based product from.
Yeah, I'll also add
Mhm.
people who want to grow organic, fresh fruits and vegetables.
Mhm.
They can have an organic fertilizer
Mhm.
company to come out at specific times, or that organic fertilizer company will know when to come out because of the aspect to come and fertilize their crops. Know when to optimize when's the best time to come instead of just coming out. Oh, we'll just come out every 3 to 6 months or so forth like that to do it. That way, they'll know when specifically to come out to optimize the the largest harvest they can get.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And all this and the technology aspect is allowing this to happen.
Yes.
Previously, this wouldn't have happened with traditional farmers, right? Traditional farmers don't really keep books like that. They have their own books, but that's for their own personal information, right? Their own personal business. But from a public information standpoint, a lot of that information we put out there, that that would be onto a QR code, on a tag that you can basically scan that with your device and say, oh, well, this is what I know about this particular carrot or beet or apple or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
And in the marketplace, that allows for feedback. And with the feedback, what that will do is um, allow for customers to say, hey, that apple that I bought from Joe's marketplace, that was
Mm-hmm.
great. Where can I get more of those apples? Now that allows for public commentary, and that has a higher return on investment for the Agritech farmer as well as the marketplace that they purchased it from.
And also, it allows for better competition and an opening of that market for better foods because you have people out here that sort of like let's call them the first wave that are uh, really care about their diet, so they only purchase foods from places that they know
Hmm.
that have organic foods. But at this point in time, how uh how 100% positive are you that it's organic? But with this blockchain and Agritech, they can trace, and on that QR code or have a scannable item, it'll say, well, this particular item is grown by this farmer,
Hmm.
and it includes these organic fertilizer. So now word of mouth comes in, and then you have the second wave of people that say, hey, I heard your produce is good. My friend who's a total health nut swears by it. They show me everything that goes into it. I'm going to purchase it too. And on and on, that's more competition with Whole Foods or any these big grocery stores that say they offer quote unquote organic food. Then on top of that, you have the byproduct of this. So you may have a person that drives EVs for EV trucks for delivery. These people say, "Wow, Mike's EV trucks they green, so
Hmm.
they deliver the food. Let me check him out."
Hmm.
Offers a more wider competition and opens up the marketplace.
Yeah, and it allows people that want to buy black and actually break that legacy of black businesses, their poor customer service, this and that. That won't happen now with not with this technology.
Correct.
Jack
Hey,
Talk, what's going on?
what's going on? How you doing, Jack?
Peace, brothers.
Hey, what's
Peace,
going on, brother?
brothers.
You have anything you want to add to this?
Oh yeah, yeah. I think that kind of what you were discussing is I think it'd be great as far as the as far as when it comes to foods and whatnot. I personally, you know, being from a Korean background, right, but also living in South Florida is like, our all of our hold on a second.
Hmm. Yeah, we can circle back to you.
Yeah, no, no, I was gonna finish real quick, but I noticed that even myself that like even just doing my traveling. I've noticed myself like having real fresh food, like fresh vegetables, fresh beans, is fresh food. It tastes a whole lot different. So it made me think consciously, like, okay, what have I been eating all these years, right? And then now you introduce you something like this into into the game is going to definitely expose people to a new taste, right? It's going to give them a different type of palate. Because when they really taste, you know, fresh foods, right? I think once people get a taste of that, they're gonna be like, okay, they're gonna want more. So, um, yeah, it's gonna create more competition. I agree.
Yeah, this creates microeconomies on the ground. Now you don't have to, I mean, not to say that Whole Foods is bad. I mean, Whole Foods is actually pretty good for what they do. There's not really much competition around for them. I mean, people say Trader Joe's, but Trader Joe's is, it's, that's what neck beards and Dollar General glasses and skinny jeans. That's that crowd. That's not an actual, you know, your traditional organic vegan crowd. But you can create that sort of marketplace, that microeconomy on the ground, and have black businesses actually thriving in the organic space. I think before, um, and I've talked about this earlier, that coming out of slavery, black people were sharecropping. They were farmers back then. During Black Wall Street and things of that nature. You could actually bring that back today by leveraging technology with traditional farming in urban environments, as well as even African environments, because there's a lot of real estate that you can actually grow crops on. It's just a way of how you go about doing it.
And when it comes from what you see to when it comes to blockchain application to all this, right? Is it really complicated or is it something simple? Because you think about the average farmer, right? Is it something that he's gonna look at and be like, I'm not overwhelmed, or you think it'll be simple enough for them to use it?
No, I think this is where we come in, right? This is where people like us come in, and we say, "Let me help you out with that," and we deliver that service to them, right? So they produce the product, we deliver the service of technology as infrastructure, and then drive that to the marketplace, and now you have quicker returns on investment, um, and better feedback, in the marketplace as well. Because people want organic food. It's just a matter of, do you want to pay for it, right? It's hard for I think Whole Foods, um, nickname is like whole paycheck because it's so expensive. But it's expensive because that's the sort of demographic that they're catering to, right? The middle class, right? The upper middle class. That's their demographic. So what happens when you have an urban environment with infrastructure that's brick and mortar infrastructure that's been closed? We just covered Sears, closing 400 stores and things of that nature. Those places could be repurposed for internal farming through Agritech.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That is true. There's
And it,
there's the space for it.
right, right. Same thing in places like Chicago and Baltimore. There's a lot of real estate that's just sitting there unutilized, and you could actually leverage that infrastructure for farming.
Mm. Yeah, it's there. So the infrastructure is there. You can build it. It's just gotta do it, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to take a little bit of know-how, but that's where your people who do know how to traditionally farm actually sit at the table with the technologists.
Mm. Mm. So it's gonna have to be the meeting of the minds to kind of put that together. So the key is just kind of networking and putting those groups together. So what do you think is a great way to kind of obviously forums like this is great, but to kind of network, bring farmers into that technology realm because you know most farmers are kind of like you know I would think somewhat afraid of technology. They might use it to a certain degree as far as you know you know I think like the equipment or whatnot, but when you want to introduce that new type of farming, like what do you think are great ways to introduce that and bring that into reality? What do you think is a great way to do that?
Well, you have to have a stack first. I mean, you have to have some form of like agritech stack for them to
Okay,
actually see first. But what I'm saying here is we need the farmer to consult with the technologists, and the
okay,
technologists need to consult with the farmer.
got you.
There
Okay,
needs to be a meeting of the minds, right, in order to actually harness all of this knowledge and infrastructure.
okay, got you. Okay.
I mean, I was looking at a video about Detroit, and there's like blocks and blocks and blocks of just empty houses.
Hmm.
You know, people, 30 to 40,000 people left Detroit since 2008. So,
Hmm.
or left Michigan, I should say, left Michigan, the state of Michigan. But you have all this real estate. How do you repurpose it, right? So you got to look at it from that perspective. What's going
Hmm.
on, Complex?
Good evening, gentlemen. What's going on, y'all?
Peace,
Chilling, brother.
brother.
Lionel, brother Jack, how you guys
Hey,
doing?
how you doing?
Good, good.
You have
Hey,
anything
man,
to
this is a topic that's near and dear to me. Mike, Lionel, you guys would know. Noah and I, we covered a lot of like the agritech and cannabis stuff on the Business Wealth Power Channel,
add?
much of last year in 2017. I mean, you hit it spot on, Mike. This serves the food desert problem,
Hmm.
especially in urban areas. A lot of large buildings that aren't being used. So you apply like agritech um, technologies to these businesses, you repurpose them. So solar panels, indoor LED lighting systems, app controlled HVAC environmental systems. You can basically you can institute turnkey solutions for pre-existing structures and make food production facilities, in pre-existing business structures.
Exactly, exactly. Let me pull up this first link on the docket. This one is from entrepreneur.com. Five trends to watch out for in the agritech industry in 2019. So this is a recent. This is yesterday, if I remember correctly, January 17th. 2018 was full of innovation and exponential growth for agritech sector. In 2019, we'll see a focus on better collaboration of new entrepreneurs with farmers and government for better development in the sector. We just talked about that a few seconds ago. The Asia Pacific is huge geographically and diversified in food and agriculture production, and our experts there are there are several areas of agri-food technology that will receive increased focus from investors in 2019. We spoke to Michael Dean, LLM, founding partner of AgFunder, and Krishna Kumar, founder and CEO of CropIn Technology, a company that provides software as a service based services to agribusinesses globally about the trends to watch out for in 2019. That's the slideshow. Agriculture technology has, well, the first one is technology innovation. Agriculture technology has immersed potential to transform the agricultural landscape by streamlining the farming operations of small landholders. Startups in the agritech industry are building affordable and scalable technology that will accelerate agriculture 4.0. This will increase the adoption of technological solutions by threefold, even in the MSME sector. AI, blockchain, robotics will further create more employment opportunities and eliminate challenges to drive supply chain innovation. We just talked about that 90 seconds ago. Literally just talked about that 90 seconds ago. This article was printed yesterday, or was posted yesterday. FinTech and Agritech. More FinTech solutions will be designed and built for the agricultural ecosystem that will focus on improving the agri-lending and agri-insurance processes. There will be significant support and efforts from stakeholders like government and other private players to make this a reality. That's where guys like Lionel come in. Automation. Automation will be an investment focus in developed markets where relatively high wage levels for workers and production variability will mean producers and processors will continue to look to robotics and automation for greater return on farm, packing, and processing efficiency. Use of IoT and blockchain. Remote sensing and IoT will continue to attract venture dollars given the impact right across the food system. We are seeing some really interesting technologies that use DNA to apply markers or to take a location fingerprint at the point of origin so we can verify the provenance of physical commodity. Low power, low range sensor protocols, when coupled with technologies like low Earth orbit microsatellites, we talked about that many times, will piece all of this together so we can monitor its location and levels of freshness as it passes through the supply chain. When used in association with distributed ledger technology, we will be able to ensure secure transactions and also monitor and trace the physical commodity to combat food and waste. Literally talked about this 10 minutes ago with Lionel. So
right.
So let me finish this. Let me finish this slide. Encourage farmers. Soil health and microbiome management tech will also continue to develop in 2019 as producers appreciate the benefits that optimal soil health brings to yields and production capacity of their land. Marketplaces that allow farmers across the region to purchase and finance their crop inputs and even sell their production will attract capital in 2019. Yeah, so that's the end of the article. But yeah, if anything you want to add to that, anybody on the panel?
Yeah, no, it does. That literally just backed up, sort of like the opening talking points for this discussion here. Mm-hmm. And it kind of sets the tone for like what the future of agribusiness looks like. Now, I've always kind of seen it in such a way where, over time, you're going to start to see technology move more and more into the space of agriculture. And I don't mean in terms of like tractors and stuff like that, but I'm literally talking about like AI-driven platforms, right? That literally are doing spectral analysis on the plants, right? Looking at the phytovitality of the plants, making determinations as to what nutrients are lacking, and then, adding, additional nutrients to the solution in real time. A lot of these things are going to speed up the method of production. And so because of this, all the key points that were just made in that article ring true. You're going to need a blockchain solution to really track this stuff in real time. You're going to need a distributed ledger type of platform. You're going to need to be able to accept micro payments in real time. The ability to be able to, like, essentially buy it's kind of like a COMEX contract in a lot of ways, where or purchasing like a futures contract where you're pre-purchasing a crop, and so the amount of time for expedition from growth to cultivation to delivery, man, it's gonna decrease probably by, I would say, probably like 30-40% over what it is now, maybe even more.
Yeah, at bare minimum 1/3.
Right. Easily, man. I mean, I'm looking at just some of the guys on YouTube that run their own microgreens businesses out of their closets of their homes. And these dudes are making like a passive, like 5 to 7 grand a month just growing microgreens, like wheatgrass, a few other types of microgreens, growing them in there. Like, they have these hydroponic setups in like their closets, man. And it's all automated the way it's done. It's impressive.
I know you have anything on this?
Yeah, this is a vertical business. It's a lot of components in it, a lot of people that are going to come together to make it happen. It's not just the farmers and people who design the interface, but there's other people that's gonna come together, and there's other sectors in this industry that need these new technologies. These new technologies are going to make, like Complex said, things much easier, streamlined, efficient, and cut out a lot of the unnecessary middle work that's currently in it. And a lot of that middle work is what deters some people from getting in it. It's like an overhead, an unneeded overhead.
Well, before, if you think about what traditional farmers had to go through, they didn't have, I mean, not having access to this technology actually lost a lot of crops. Think about, um, think about the soybeans that the farmers in the Midwest were trying to sell to China, and China said, "Well, we really don't need that, right? It's on the barge, right?"
Yep.
Had they had the technology to leverage, to know that China was going to be buying their soybeans from Brazil or from another country in Africa or something like that, they probably would have to shift their operations, right? They don't have to put it on a truck. They don't have to deploy or expedite the routes or things of that nature. They can actually make adjustments on the fly. They more than likely they didn't have that technology available to them. J. Charles, go ahead.
Yeah, I think all you guys are saying some good points. Do you think with the efficiency this might bring, right, especially into uh, the agriculture side of things, do you think this might put a dent as far as like kind of on hunger, war hunger? Because it seemed like it's very efficient, right? Somebody can continually grow year-round food, right? Like, do you think this can help with the kind of like shortage on food? Because obviously population growth is population is growing, right? And I know we had an article, we discussed it a few weeks ago. There's an article we had put out, but it did an email chain about certain countries as far as overpopulation. So do you think this can help out as far as put a dent as far as some of these overpopulated cities, this feeding people and certain things like that?
I don't think overpopulation is the issue, right? Because if people wanted this stuff, there would be more demand for it. So I don't think there's a demand for organic food in that capacity, right? It's not like, all these people in the project saying I have to eat. Captain Crunch. I wish I had a nice apple or something like that. I don't think people are thinking that way, but I think there has to be a shift in culture in order to fulfill that demand, right?
Yeah.
So there has to be some some form of nutritionist who's going to come by and do a breakdown as to why you need to eat organic food rather than to be eating, Joe's Steak and Cheese down on Michigan Ave. So.
Yeah, I agree with Mike wholeheartedly. I think it's a kind of like it's a culture change that has to happen as far as our love affair with food. As a people, we used to be very agrarian. We used to take pride in growing our own stuff. Like my pop still grows, he grows greens and oranges, and my pops grows a whole bunch of stuff.
Mhm.
So that's kind of where I get my interest in a lot of this stuff. But just by and large, I think we've gotten largely disconnected, from kind of raising up our own food. And we need to get reconnected with that. But if we reconnect with it, I think we need to reconnect with it through tech, because we're not in like agricultural spaces largely as Black folks. We're in urban areas.
Mhm.
So we would need to revisit it and get back in tune with you know, um, our consumption of natural foods, grown foods, not food products, but actual food that's grown. And we do it in a way where we do it in the spaces that we occupy.
I was yeah, I get it now. It makes sense. I get that. I know it's like even like in this the utilization of certain spaces, like even like in New York City, I've noticed that you have like rooftop gardens and something like that. And
Mm-hmm.
now you're talking about some of these abandoned buildings. Mike was talking about some abandoned buildings in certain cities that can be utilized for farming. And
Yeah.
obviously we seen videos and of farms that are in, I think I saw one where it was in a parking garage, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was two young ladies running it, and I'm like, man, like if you had that, like somebody see some, if you had enough of those in certain cities, a city could be self sufficient. Like it's there. So,
It solves
um,
your food desert problem.
mm,
Right? Not only that, I mean, hell, we could take it a step further. And you know
yeah,
how we like to do in the brain trust, we like the business model. So you could co-opt the space, right? So now people have a vested interest in being food producers. So you can take a large building that's in an area, and then you section it off and you sublet chunks of it. So one person says, hey, I grow different types of romaines and arugulas and these types of lettuces, right? So they have like a 20 by 20 plot in this large building where they grow just that. Other people are growing what they call trash can potatoes. If you've ever heard of that, it's a
Yeah.
method of growing potatoes in a trash can.
Mhm.
There's all these different ways and things, or you can really tech it out and go what Lionel was saying. You go vertical growing, right? So you utilize the vertical space within the building and you grow from the ground upwards. It's so many ways to approach it, man. It would just be something where this has to become something of a priority to us.
Mhm. Let me hit this next article. All right, this one's from Forbes.com. This is the other day. How this company is transforming the agritech industry by blending AI and drones. Artificial intelligence experienced a series of booms in recent decades, each of which led to disruption of their respective industries. One industry that artificial intelligence somehow fell short on was agriculture. This stands to be an issue globally, especially when considering the fact that presently it's crucial for farms to produce much more food while using fewer resources. In the United States, the mean farm size is 178.4 hectares. In Latin America, it is 111.7 hectares. There is a phenomenon of consolidation in agriculture as farms are increasing in size at an accelerated rate to meet demands of the growing world population, which exceeds 7.5 billion. This combined with the increasing costs associated with farming intensifies the need for disruption. Regardless of the size and density, the slightest of business decisions can play a profound role in the profitability of the farms on the farm itself of themselves. And these decisions need to be backed by data-driven business intelligence. For corporate farmers, especially those that work with permanent crops, the concept of precision agriculture has been a hot topic for over 20 years, but has yet to deliver on the promise. AI alone did not disrupt agriculture the same way it disrupted other industries, and that was largely because at its core, agriculture had lacked that strong technological backbone. We just talked about that. The founders of Tree realized that the quality of data provided to permanent crop growers has been too limited to have substantial impact on farming, and are today announcing $15 million in financing to fix this. Tree is an end-to-end intelligence network that combines AI with boots on the ground to provide growers with visibility monitoring and actionable analytics to optimize their farming. It uses the power of machine learning algorithms to get smarter and offers the most precise window into strings of trees. AI takes pattern recognition data to the next level by planning future actions based on previous results. For example, parameters may need to be set to alter irrigation based on certain temperature ranges after gaining insights from A/B testing. I don't want to read too much into this because it sounds like they're trying to sell the company, but I do think that this is where it is. Let me read this one last paragraph. By 2050, the world would need to produce 70% more food to feed the growing population, which is expected to reach 9.1 billion, and the level of scalability offered by Tree will collectively assist growers to meet these demands. So, to Jack's point, would this help with the growing population? It helps in that area, but what I was referring to was that the people who live in in Baltimore are not concerned about or organic food and where it's grown. If you eat steak and cheese, you definitely thinking about that.
I got you. I
You
agree.
Mike, the funny thing about that though is when we look at when you look at cost for production, it doesn't cost as much to produce organic leafy greens and vegetables and stuff like that than it does to produce like beef and cattle and all of that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at what food products that are like organic, non-GMO and all that stuff, when you look at the price points for all this stuff, right, it tends to be on the more expensive side than the cheaper stuff, quote unquote. But there's really not a difference in cost production. So it's something for us to kind of be mindful of in terms of making conscious decisions on where we put our capital resources in terms of the foods that we consume, because just as easily as you get that steak and cheese sandwich for $5 or $6, I mean, you can go down to like your local farmers market, for example, and get a nice little haul of vegetables for the same amount of money, and the health benefits are going to be diametrically opposed to the steak and cheese.
Mm-hmm. I know you have anything you want to add to this?
It looks like they're using AI in drones to take pictures of the below hectares or grounds or sections of the farm in which different crops are grown. So it seems like they're going to continuously have drones fly over, take pictures, run those pictures and any other scans of those patches or entire land through the AI system, and the AI system is going to continuously update, such as blockchain, and continuously update to say, hey, this area has been doing bad over the last few days. This area's been doing good, so therefore you should focus on this area. Things of the nature. So it'll make the farming itself easier and more uh, uh, efficient.
You
Get the
know,
top down
Lionel.
view.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Lionel, to follow up on that. I've seen on YouTube some videos of like farms that they even took it a step further, where if certain crops, they do the spectral analysis or the photo I forgot the term is, where they essentially use UV light to look at the plant leaf, right, to get a determination of its mineral content and whether it's deficient anywhere. As soon as something determines that the plants are deficient in, say, like phosphorus or potassium or something like that, they'll deploy a drone to come out and spray them. I've seen the drone come out and spray them too. So it's like everything is drone operated.
Yeah, drones are just an instrument
Hmm.
to the actual business itself. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like, yeah, it's kind of like a hedge trimmer or weed whacker or something.
Yeah.
You can even put this as a business model. Have land, and throughout the day and night, have at certain times the army of drones go out and do analysis on the farm. And when people come in the morning, it'll it'll say, hey, this section of this section
Mm.
is deficient in this or needs this. This section is
Hmm.
fine. So now you don't have to sit there and lord over the farming. Now you can treat it as a business where you're coming in the morning, you're growing like say 27 different crops. So you doing the manager come in, do analysis, get the data, say, okay, this is that, and then feed it to the when the employees come in and say, okay, I need you to go over here because the
Hmm.
strawberries need this. I need you to go over there because the yams need this or the cassava need this.
Hmm.
You're
Hmm.
you're fractionizing or micromanaging your landscape that couldn't be done before.
Yes,
Yeah, I
that's a
think
great idea.
that's a great thing, man. Yeah, go ahead. That's a great thing. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying that's a great idea if you do it like that.
Hmm.
Yeah, I agree. When it comes to all that data, okay, how they going to hold? Where are they going to hold all that data? Because that's a lot of data. Let's see, you have a we're talking about acres let's say you're talking about whole like a warehouse, right?
Hmm.
Of different plots of different type of you know plants you're growing, whatever, right? Herbs or whatever, or vegetables you're growing. All
Hmm.
that data, like I know you had to sift through it and figure out, okay, how can we tweak this? And I know it would improve growth, but with all that data, like what are they gonna put that data at? Like what's gonna be the what is used for something like that for data?
Cloud storage.
Now, I don't think it'll be a lot of data. Um, you old data in this situation, you will need the old data. It'll be only specific um, information you'll need. Say, okay, this time of year, this always happens. That type of data. But on day 367, the cassava root needed watering. That type of data you won't need. So you won't accumulate a lot of data in the short and long term. But I don't think it'll be a lot of data
I think it'll
because you
be
can
more
delete.
like it would probably be more like just a constant, consistent monitoring of conditions, right? Not, I mean, it's probably going to record data such as what the conditions are at specific times. But I think generally speaking, you're not really looking at any sort of action taken on like the AI side until maybe like a sensor senses something. Otherwise, it's more of it's in a monitoring state. I mean I mean Mike might be able to, or if Young Grizzly was here because he actually is toying around with some of this stuff, actually writing code for some of these types of applications. But my thought on it would be like it's kind of in a monitoring state until a sensor or something picks up a deficiency or an issue or problem somewhere, and then then there may be more additional information that's stored. But I don't know. That's just kind of like my thought.
Data collection gives visibility. So the more data you can collect, the more data you can aggregate, the better visibility you can have. Traditionally in farming, you don't have that sort of data, and I think that's what the article was kind of pointing at. That AI didn't really disrupt the industry because there was really no no data lakes created. There was nothing there.
You basically had a farmer's almanac, basically.
Right. The way AI works is that the more data that gets fed to it, the better it can act. So without some form of data collection and data analytics, then you're not going to be able to get that sort of return on investment. And having these IoT sensors in the ground and things of that nature is exactly what's going to give you that data gathering.
Mm-hmm.
Scholar Chang, what's going on?
Yo.
What's going on, Scholar Chang?
I think he might be driving right now.
Okay.
Let me jump to the next article. All right, this one is from disruptafrica.com. 5 Agritech startups join Senegal Startup Accelerator. This is going to be big. The Senegal Startup Accelerator aims to support young Senegalese entrepreneurs with innovative ideas tackling the challenges facing the agriculture sector using technology. The program run by the Cosmos Innovation Center and Reach for Change helps selected entrepreneurs to develop their commercial solutions and maximize their impact. Through a 6-month schedule of intensive and expert training, as well as organized visits to established businesses for market research and professional mentoring. The chosen startups also receive $2,000 each in seed funding with the chance to secure additional funding upon completion of the program. The cohort this is weird. Not sure why it was translated this way. A platform that connects farmers to qualified agricultural experts, service providers, and materials needed to improve farming practices and access the latest innovations. Tool BI, Business Intelligence, which works to facilitate irrigation with an electronic innovation and improve agricultural yields. Frazen Waluma Agri, I think that's how you pronounce it, an efficient way of producing organic strawberries locally in Senegal at an affordable cost. Siegel Semtitone Sorrel, working in conservation of medicinal plants and food waste solutions, GIE. Yeah, I think that's just about it. But this shows you what's going on in Africa right now. The conversation that we're having right now actually is actually being put to use on the ground.
Mm-hmm. And this kind of follows along with what our thoughts have been on the implementation of, say, like fourth industrial-based technologies in Africa. It's like the term isn't jump the shark, but you go right to the new tech, right? You just go right to the new tech and implement it as a solution. So, this is a good sign that Africa is going Agritech. You may as well just go right to that, and just start right there, as opposed to trying to reinvent an old wheel, just to kind of understand how a wheel works, and only to then replace it with a carbon fiber wheel or something.
Mm-hmm. I think. Go ahead, Lionel.
Oh no, nothing too major. Just $2,000. That can be scrumped and scrounged up, You accept instead of having you have to tell a company what you plan on doing for $2,000.
Are you saying that it's not a good thing, or are you saying it's a bad thing?
Oh no, I'm not saying it's a good or bad thing. What I'm saying is that can be done by African Americans. $2,000.
Right, right.
Oh,
What to say? The
you're
total
talking about seed
startup.
investment. You're talking about the seed investment.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like it's $50,000. It's $2,000. Like, that's what they doing. Well, let's shoot. African Americans do that. We spend that. We spend that on Jordans in a month.
I'm about to say, I know cats who spend that on flipping shoes in 1 month.
Yeah.
Louis Vuitton belts for 500.
Mm-hmm. iPhones.
Arc
ahead, Jack.
promo at I was gonna say Arc promo. He asked a question in the chat: is the new farm tech affordable for African businesses? I think you came in maybe after the opening discussion that we had, but we were talking about the affordability of creating indoor agritech businesses, right? Like even like the acquisition of equipment, and stuff like that. It's not because you don't need tractors and stuff. Trays, pumps, lights, reflective material. You know, uh, you know, air filtration systems, stuff like that. These are like small purchases. So depending on how small or big you're doing it, yeah, it can be very affordable. I mean, Lionel was just speaking to the fact that, like for a $2,000, investment, that could get you into the business as an investor. I mean, what's $2,000 in reality? Really, in reality, speak, what is $2,000? We just spoke to it. That's what, 10 boxes of Jordans or something?
Yeah, that makes black people in America venture capitalists in Africa.
There you go.
Jack Charles, go ahead.
Yeah, I think what matters the most is like what comes to my mind is I remember a few weeks ago, Lionel discussed an article pertaining to blockchain and farming and amount of waste, um, how the amounts of waste as far as farm waste, with food and stuff like that, these farmers are facing, not because they have enough information as far as the data or the equipment and certain things like that, and how like drones and AI can be a big help. So I'm thinking in my mind, right? I'm trying to just foresee the future. So let's say once this is perfected in in Africa, far as monetizing it, right? Far as investing in it, like what's the potential growth can emerge from this? Like what, as far as the industry wise, like what can emerge from this that people now could, if they were to get into this early, can profit from, because there's a lot of holes, in farming, especially in Africa, and then with the exponential amount of people growing there, this is going to be a big need. So when it comes to you know making investments down there, and this is perfected, like what can be the outcome you think from this, Mike and Lionel?
Go ahead, Lionel.
Okay, just to clarify, I didn't specifically mean African Americans we can do that. I just meant as African Americans we can invest, diaspora Africans invest in continental Africans and
Right.
say, hey, we got $2,000 to give you. You don't have to go through them. Your question, Jack, I'm not specifically understanding.
No, I'm trying to say like once it's all perfected, right? Once it's the whole agritech movement is perfected in Africa, like what potentially can you see the outcome? Like what's going to grow from this? Because once because there's a lot of holes in the farming industry, right? They deal with a lot of waste. There's a lot of issues with farming down there, especially some even like someplace like South Africa where you know they're struggling as far as farming in the farming industry down there. So once it's perfected, like what can be the outcome, right? I know people can get fed or whatnot, but like as far as business outcomes, like what can emerge from this?
Oh, go ahead, Lionel. I'm sorry.
You go ahead, Mike. I'm still trying to process.
Oh no, to his point, simply is that you're solving African problems with African solutions.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great point.
Yep.
Because a lot of these problems that's on the ground are proprietary to Africa. The droughts, the poor soil and things of that nature. Keep in mind that Monsanto has not gotten into Africa as of yet. To my knowledge, they haven't gotten there yet. So they haven't poisoned any of the crops and things like that with their genetically modified ingredients. So now is the time to actually conquer those areas and keep the Western powers out, because Monsanto is a Western power. It's used in agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
We have to keep in mind that you gotta if we have the financial resources with a strong U.S. dollar, then it would behoove us to actually be the seed investors for those people on the ground that actually need it. Become the venture capitalist, be the VC, be the angel investor, be the seed investor. That's cheap money. I've seen people on Hangouts on in the Manosphere get that kind of money, and you don't know where it went.
But you know what? I agree with you. Couple African cities are slated to have millions of people, such as Nigeria, Tanzania, Niger. A lot of these cities are coastal and by water. Kinshasa. So, I said it to say, the land in the interior, the hinterland, is already fertile, which means you can take advantage of that with this agriculture, make enough food, more than enough food for the coastal cities that will have millions and millions of people. And you can still, because these cities are on the coast, which means you have ports there, them to other areas of the world that don't have farmland, such as Dubai or Saudi Arabia, and
they have to import their food.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
They do a lot of import, and they do a lot of importing, which means East Africa. That's just right there. I was gonna say something else, but I lost my train of thought. But yeah.
No, and I wanted to. There was a point I wanted to make, but Oric Promo put a comment in the chat, and it really speaks in detail to kind of where I was going to go with it. He says the one big thing about African agriculture is that most only think of the food industry. Agriculture feeds manufacturing, energy, clothing, just to name a few industries. And so, to kind of speak to what you were asking, Jack, this is kind of largely how I see it. There's a lot of things that are derived from organic, naturally grown plants. We're talking more than just, food. We're talking food products also. So that means that, just in addition to just the actual raw vegetables and fruits and things of that sort, but now we're also selling that wholesale to other businesses who then take that and then make food products out of it. So now we're supporting other industries along with this. So, and if we're doing it in an environment where the supply chain is largely in-house, meaning that the production is largely vertical, so a good portion of the supply chain is taking place in one place. So the maybe the other elements of the supply chain that we're looking at is the transportation from there to wherever it needs to go, the end user. Okay, but we're largely closing the gaps in a lot of the supply chain issues, a lot of the environmental issues, as Mike was speaking to, maybe like poor soil quality, lack of water, all of that type of stuff. Going high tech with your agricultural infrastructure means that you are going to eliminate a lot of the natural challenges, and you're going to put it in an enclosed environment where technology is able to take care of those nature-based challenges.
Now, check this out. Maize ethanol is you get ethanol from maize. Now, cassava cassava root, you can get a lot of like it's like a biodegradable plastic you can get from cassava root, and also with these deserts in Namibia and the Sahel region and the Sahara, you can use this agritech, like a offshoot of the agritech, to reclaim these deserts.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about the Namibian desert. There's a lot of sand down there. But the Sahel and the Sahara regions were once green, so you can reclaim that back. That's what China's doing right now,
Yeah. Yep.
reclaiming the Gobi Desert back.
Yep.
Let me jump to this next article. For those of you that are following along and just joined the chat, we are on in the docket. We are on 2D, so 2 David. This one is from ttnews.com. Container farms, a new type of agriculture. Innovators within the produce industry are breaking the boundaries of food production by growing crops not in fields but in recycled shipping containers. This modern twist on farming is designed to bypass some of the challenges and restrictions that farmers traditionally have faced, such as extreme weather, pests, and limited grow season. By overcoming these limitations, farming operations are capable of producing more food and growing certain crops in regions that otherwise would have had to import them. By growing this food locally, suppliers are able to cut out the long travel distances often necessary to transport these foods to certain markets. According to Jeff Moore, Vice President of Sales at produce supplier Tom Lange Co., shorter travel distances provide numerous benefits such as fresher product, reduced transportation costs, less waste, and fewer empty shelves at markets. The use of innovative farming the use of innovative farming methods also is being pushed in Canada. Grocery retailer Loblaw Companies Limited announced plans to spend $150 million more each year with Canadian farmers by 2025. As part of that effort, the company pledged to help farmers implement growing techniques that will enable them to produce fruits and vegetables in Canada that the country has traditionally imported. Freight Farms and Tiger Corner Farms are two companies that are growing produce in shipping containers through the use of hydroponics and aeroponics, methods of growing plants without the use of soil. Both companies use nutrient-rich water as a substitute for soil, but beyond that, their container farms are quite different. Tiger Corner Farms farming units consist of 5 shipping containers, 4 are used for farming, and the 5th one is used as a working station where the plants germinate and as a post-harvest station. Tiger Corner Farms, based out of Somerville, South Carolina, is a family company that began with combined interests of Stephanie Swackhammer, the general manager, and her dad, Don Taylor. Through Grow Food Carolina, a nonprofit organization focused on preserving farming in South Carolina, Tiger Corner Farms has partnered with 2 other companies, Vertical Roots and Boxcar Central. Tiger Corner Farms manufactures farming units from recycled shipping containers. Boxcar Central works on the automation of the hardware and software used for these container farms. And Vertical Roots deals with the production of the produce. So this is I just want to look at this picture real quick. It's what it looks like in one of their shipping containers.
Hmm.
Vertical Roots says it can produce 40,000 heads of lettuce in about half the time of a traditional farm.
Where is Young Grizzly?
I would say this is more of a supplement than your primary way of producing produce. pertaining to us in urban areas, we have a lot of, well, at least I know in Chicago, a lot of vacant areas,
Hmm.
homes that's condemned that haven't been torn down yet, and a lot of black people. Well, people in America tend to live next to people they are. Black people live next to black people, and so forth. So, in our areas, such as Detroit, also, you have a lot of areas that can be used for. I would see this as a supplement to that. A way to get things started and have it have it uh I keep saying supplement, but yeah, supplement your urban farming, shore up your produce.
Yeah, I can also see it being something where, excuse me, if you know, high-end restaurants really choose to go proprietary with their ingredients, then in the
Mm-hmm.
back of their restaurant, if they have room, they get one of these things and literally grow everything themselves. So I could even see this as like some sort of business add-on for the restaurant industry. I see an application there. Yeah, in Chicago, given that, I lived there for a bit of time there as well. I agree, Lionel. I don't really see an application for this type of stuff here, given that there's plenty of space in an urban area like South Side of Chicago, where you might as well just go and get a building.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, you can use it as a supplement
Right,
in
right.
areas where
Yeah.
you just can't grow nothing. Where like
Hmm.
in fields you just can't grow nothing. Where this would produce those small little lots where this would food than trying to grow it in the ground.
Yeah. I could also see something like this being used for like little cluster communities, like off-grid cluster communities.
Mm-hmm.
Like these would be like makeshift food production facilities or something like that. It's like maybe like a communal sort of thing. I mean, you're thinking about, I'm thinking like, sort of like off-grid future off-grid communal living type communities, right? I could see something like that totally being applicable also.
This can also be used as those areas where you have to import food in America, the cities where
Hmm.
it takes a while to import, so therefore the food doesn't is not grown to its fullest capacity. Then plucked early, so you can get the food to these isolated areas. Well, food that
Hmm.
what the area, whatever you want to call it. These can that this can work in like a grocery store. I understand grocery store have partnerships with areas that grow food, but grocery stores that are in those areas where it take a long time to get fresh
Right.
produce, and by the time they get there, percentage of it is already bad. This can be put, like you said, in your
Yeah, yeah,
restaurant example, put in the back. In a grocery store, it covers a lot of land. You can have a multiple of these and put one on top of each other and have a, and therefore you serving your community fresh fruits and vegetables.
yeah. Hmm.
Jack Charles, go ahead.
So I'm trying to think, man. I think this is great job. So I think it's a great idea, man. Where they're going with this, and I don't. For some reason, for some reason I keep thinking like this is going to evolve and more into like a space when they do space colonies and stuff like that. Like I feel like this is where it's going to go. That's how far it's going to evolve because um just to create that much food and that much short of time, and that efficient without any soil, just that's that's just crazy. But I think this is geared more for space travel, and once we start create colonies in other planets or whatnot, this is where this is going to be used, or just on the moon or wherever, whatever. This is where this is really going,
Well,
as it
Jack,
comes to me.
Well, Jack, you're not off in in your assessment what you say, because if we were to go back, maybe back to like the mid late '90s, um, a lot of those space shuttle missions. So the experiments that were being carried out was growing under LED lights, right? So they literally they experimented and did a lot of research on this type of stuff growing vegetables in zero gravity environments under LED lights. So a lot of the LED technology that's now been deployed into your large scale indoor growing facilities was pioneered on a space shuttle.
Yeah, it's the technique more so than the physical storage container. It's the technique in growing it without soil that can be used in space travel.
Mm-hmm. All right, let me get to the next article. This one is from yesmagazine.org. Why this Montana farmer grows food year-round in shipping containers. Kim Curran, owner of Shaggy Bear Farm in Bozeman, Montana, has worn many hats. She worked in the solar power industry for 15 years, owned her own cafe, bookstore, and worked a stint as a medical case manager. In 2016, Curran decided to try her hand at farming because why not? Quote, people always accuse me of having an attention deficit disorder career. Curran says, I just tell them I'm a Gemini and I get bored of doing one thing. One day, Curran came across an article about Freight Farms, a company that upcycles old shipping containers into indoor vertical hydroponic growing machines. After doing more research visiting their headquarters in Boston, she was sold on the idea. In 2016, with the help of a hefty loan and $50,000 grant from the Montana Department of Agriculture, Curran had two 40-foot long shipping containers delivered to her home. With another grant, Curran installed solar panels on her setup. Today, her farm is 30% solar powered. Quote, when the first shipping container arrived, I had a moment of, oh my God, what did I do? Because it was like this giant alien spaceship had landed in my yard, Curran says. But she loved the idea of being able to supply her community with local, chemical-free food year-round, despite Montana's harsh, frosty climate. Her crops, her crops are grown without soil in a controlled indoor environment. So below zero temperatures and pest invasions aren't a worry. Each occurrence shipping containers have the capacity to grow 4,000 plants, a wide variety of herbs and leafy greens such as lettuce, kale, chard, and arugula. Each container only uses 10 gallons of water per day, 90% less than what is used in conventional farming. So,
Boom.
this is what's going on right now, and that's just a picture of her
Mm-hmm.
standing in her vertical farm, her shipping container farm.
10 gallons a day.
That's crazy.
Well,
Is this food like how rich is this food? 'Cause I've never tried it before, but what are people
It's
saying?
good.
What they're saying about it? It's good.
It's good. It's good. I've grown. When we get into the cannabis part of the chat, I maybe in the free chat, I'll show you some stuff that I've grown. But if you're using the right nutrients, it tastes better than the stuff that's grown in the ground in some instances.
Yeah, I think this is I think this is why I see why there's a big push for this, man.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna have to go this direction just with the pollutions in the air,
Right.
just with the climate change and again, like I've seen farmland where it's just everything was growing, then again, like I'm driving, I drove through and it's like snow is everywhere, and it's like okay, now that the crop is gone, so I'm like, how can you have a consistent supply of food, right? And seeing that I use 10 gallons of water a day is like that's efficient, man. That's really efficient, and she's able to serve a community. So what I foresee with this is that uh, they're gonna come a time where the government's gonna kind of back this and put more money into this.
oh,
Um,
according to the article, she got a nice hefty grant of 50,000 from the her state government. So,
They already
mm,
are.
mm. So
I mean, it's
how much do you?
agriculture is agriculture. They're not gonna split hairs in terms of the
Yeah,
type of agriculture. It's agriculture.
yeah, okay. Yeah, this is remarkable, man. I think what I see in my mind, like where let's say like a country that was like got over a war and they need to rebuild, and this things got like damaged, or whatever. If they can kind of like create these type of farms, right, in
Deploy
certain
those.
cities, yeah, like some place like Yemen or
Hmm.
or Syria or even in Iraq. Like I think this can make a big difference,
Yeah.
especially in war torn cities or countries. So yeah, this is great. This is a great idea.
And even if and in those type of environments, so let's say you do deploy those, right? And let's just say that maybe the water's not the best quality. I mean, you've got portable water filtration systems where you run the source water through the filtration system, then into the container. Boom, 10 gallons.
Yeah, you guys are giving out some $1 million ideas, man.
Hey, we do this. We do this.
Because
We
like
do
so many
this.
angles you can approach this. You can approach this from this far as containers, building. If you let's say you even build, you can build the infrastructure for the farming, or just the water aspect of it, or just um you know just the technology aspect of. There's so many aspects in this where I think that people can capitalize on. So it's your fault if you don't get into it. But I think as a whole, I think this is something that our people really need to kind of grasp our hand on and take control of this, because this is something that it would never go away, right? So this is it. I think this is
I
it.
mean, I see this. I see these are solutions that even can be deployed in Haiti and places that are even closer. You know.
Yeah, I agree.
I
I
would
agree.
Yeah.
say you can, depending on how much they cost, one cost, and depending on where you're growing in that and that culture's taste, that culture's food, and what ingredients goes in there. Pick those to make a list of those ingredients and see which ones can be grown aquaponically.
Hmm. Yep.
Buy a couple of
You can
these.
grow. You can literally, Lionel. You can literally, and I can kind of attest to this. You can literally, if it roots in the ground, right? You can
Mhm.
literally grow anything hydroponically.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, instead of growing anything like in a
But you're
black
talking about like things that are native to the
right to the
to that
area that
environment.
you're going
Yep.
to put
Yep.
put
Yep.
these in
Yep.
to make a which
Hmm.
ones can be grown by a
Yeah.
couple of these and just grow all year round, especially in colder climates. You say, hey,
Hmm.
because that culture's restaurants, and because they want to keep their culture alive, especially through food. And you say,
Yep.
hey, I know you get this from such and such. It's about 5 degrees outside, so I have fresh right across town. I can get it to you in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's a way. It's also a way for Black people not to just also not just to have fresh fruit in our own environment, but to sell those to other cultures also.
Export.
Right,
Yeah.
export through the same city,
Hmm.
such as these Chinatowns, these Polish towns, little Vietnam, such and so forth.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you sell this to the black community? Especially in the urban community. Like, how do
You
you?
don't sell it; you just buy one and put it there.
I'm saying like the food. How you push that? Like how you just do it? You think just do it?
We're gonna get around
Well,
that you
ideally,
growing collard
I
greens.
yeah, you're right. Yeah, I want to do it.
yeah, you're damn right. Yeah. I mean, ideally, what you want to do, and shit, since we're throwing business ideas, let's just throw them out there. I mean, look, man, you can leverage. We've been talking about this, especially over the last week at great length about Amazon and Whole Foods and all that. Now, you can be a supplier, an Amazon Fresh supplier.
That's what they do.
You can do that. You can literally
So hold on.
set your.
So what's
Go ahead,
Amazon
go
Fresh
ahead,
Supply?
dude.
Explain to me. What is that? Like,
That means that you get one of these containers, the shit that you grow, right? You
yeah.
basically you're supplying Amazon.
Mm, okay.
Amazon actually has a program for supporting minority businesses.
Okay, let's take it a step further.
Wow. Okay. Mm.
So I mean, it's not as if the business is there. The business is there. Point blank. Period. The business is there.
Yep, just like Kenneth Thomas. You know, you can get these hands, you can get this business too.
Shoot. You don't, but sure, you don't. You just if you know you can battle but put a few of these there, and when word gets around that hey, this place is selling certain collard greens or mustard greens, and not to be funny, but this is true. Word's going to get around. They're going to say, well, what else you got? Oh, you got yams? Okay.
Yeah. You start supplying restaurants. I mean, hell, look, California, last year, January 2018, enacted a cottage food law statewide, right? You could basically run a restaurant out of your house now.
I want to get to this article.
Go ahead. Yeah.
All right, this one is from the BBC.com. Nigerian entrepreneur with farming and a shipping container. So this is in Nigeria. She's also doing the aquaponic setup. I'll read the caption real quick. Angel got around the cost of transporting farm produce from the countryside to the city by trying organic container farming. She moved her farm into Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Abuja, that's right. Yeah, cutting fuel costs and reducing the amount of produce ruined on the way to the market. So they're basically using the waste from the chickens into the water as a way to fertilize the water.
So similar to aquaponics, where you're basically using the fish waste in the water.
Right.
Yeah. We put it in the rock wool.
And they're doing all the
Yeah.
sealing of the product right on site, stamping it, rubber stamping it.
See, Jack, that's what we're talking about right there. That's where your supply chain is enclosed. It's all done right there, one central location. The only thing you're talking about now is logistics from point A to point B. But the finished product is done right there, all in house.
Oh, I don't know. I think because
she also saved up money to buy those water containers, reservoirs to actually bring water in because she didn't have water before that. And they don't have electricity, so they only have a generator, as you see in the video, and they're saving up for solar panels.
I was going to say, this is where you come in with solar panels and power walls.
Right. This is where you have seed investment come in.
Yep. There's that $2,000 that Lionel was talking about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, what I think on this is just people need to just like kind of just do it instead of just like, I think I don't know if I can. Just do it, man, because these people in Africa are just doing it. They're not even like.
No, that's all it is, dude. You do it. You fuck your apprehensions, man. You do it.
You gonna learn along the way. You're not gonna. It's not good to know everything 100%. Well, at least I'm getting that from the Navy. When you know a certain percent, you're ready to go.
Yeah.
Say that one more time, Lionel, so everybody hear it again.
Well, when you know 70% of something, do it.
Yep. I agree.
And it's easy to learn a good portion of that on YouTube by, alone. Take a day out and put in your playlist aquaponic growing videos, or a couple days and write down notes. You'll see a pattern of people saying the same things. And you're ready to go.
How much you think a setup like this will cost? Like, because they say you can like just get to the bare bones of it, like just a basic concept of something like this. How much you think this will cost? So, like,
Well,
if somebody were to put it, huh?
the last article we just went over said that she got a $50,000 grant. So take that into consideration, 50,000 up front.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to say, it really kind of depends on your space and the scale and what you're trying to grow. I mean, I'll show you guys I'll show you guys when we get into the cannabis part, maybe in the free chat. I'll show you guys, my hydroponic grow, and I would say the most I threw at it was maybe like total, maybe like about $600.
Mm. Doesn't really take much.
No, not at all. And not only that, I wasn't just growing weed, dude. I was growing vegetables and stuff too with the same stuff.
Mm.
Complex is from California, so it's legal.
Oh, yeah, let's go to the disclaimer. Yeah, that's right. I can legally do that. So,
All right, question number 3. Where is the tech application behind it? So the tech application behind it is cloud, data analytics, artificial intelligence, IoT, blockchain, cryptocurrencies. Those are the 6 components of the tech factor for the application behind it, behind agritech farming. If we want to, one application, and I think I mentioned earlier, but then I'll just pass the mic around, has been putting this information of the growing of the produce on the blockchain, giving a sufficient amount of information to buyers to know that this is not a GMO based product. It's locally grown. It was picked by X person on this day. How much time it took to expedite, as well as when's the best time to be eaten.
mm-hmm.
Now, a person who's buying this in the marketplaces at the local farmers market can actually pull out their phone, use a QR code on it that's probably stamped on it, or probably even has a small tag on it. Pull up the QR code, get all this information off of it, eat it, take it home, eat it, cook it whichever way they want, and say this was delicious or this was terrible, and they can write comments in the public sphere, denoting that this product is actually certifiably good and it's local.
I would even say, just to combat competition, sabotage, instead of putting and I'm just throwing this out there for someone that's going to actually, that's actually doing this. Instead of putting the QR code on the package on top, like put it underneath the plastic, so someone can't peel it off. Because when this stuff starts to catch on, people start to see their bottom line shrink.
Mm-hmm.
Your produce is going to be affected.
Or you can actually put an RFID tag on the bag itself, or the carton box that it's on.
Okay, cool.
RFID tag would actually allow that to be constantly broadcasting into the network.
Oh well, sure. Well, problem solved.
I never thought about security. Yeah, security on food, man. I never thought about that, but okay.
Yeah, food security,
man.
See
their bottom, when these big companies see their bottom line start to shrink, they're big companies. They're not as nimble to make that change. It'll take some time. They're gonna, my opinion, sabotage. Hey, salmonella.
Well, look, we know this to be, the case in a lot of regards. What was it? Lawsuits against Monsanto for dropping GMO seed on people's growing plots, right? Terminator seeds. We've seen this. We've seen crop sabotage. There's been lawsuits against Monsanto for this very thing.
Yeah, we saw the Russian government take action. Putin actually take action and declare war if Monsanto was to come in their country.
You damn right he did. Yeah, that's right. He did.
Yeah, the tech.
I didn't know Monsanto go that far. There's evidence of that. There's evidence of this.
Look, Monsanto just lost a case
I know. Go
to
ahead.
that brother who sued because he got cancer due to
Yeah.
Roundup.
Monsanto was in India also, and they promised them that I, I forgot what they what product they gave them, what agricultural product they gave them. They were saying this will withstand drought, but
Hmm.
something happened and they were not happy. The farmers in India was not happy.
Hmm.
But yeah, the tech around this stuff is, like you said, Mike, the RFID. That goes to IoT right
Yep.
there.
Well, the box itself, the container itself, would be an IoT
Yeah.
Mm.
because
Okay.
of the RFID
That
itself.
is, yeah, the entire
So,
container.
so out of all the tech, which one do you think is most important? Like, out of all of them, like, what is really the most important one out of all the tech out of using this?
It, it all. I think it all has a part to play.
Yeah.
But I think going forward in sort of like the agriculture, the agritech discussion that we're having, I think the implementation of what Mike and Lionel are just talking about, either QR codes or RFID codes to literally track things down to the damn package,
Mm.
right? So let's just say someone gets sick, and they're like, okay, well, shit, they've detected E. coli. Again, you never know, man. Sabotage. Somebody spikes the water with some shit, and
They can pinpoint
you
it.
know, and,
Or even
yeah.
or even this takes precedence for recalls. I mean, remember back in 10 years ago with mad cow disease in the UK,
Hmm.
having to recall those cattle.
The beef.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
remember
vanilla
that.
poison. So
Hmm.
instead of destroying all this food that is not affected, you can pinpoint what is affected,
Exactly.
and you
Nip
can
it in the
save
bud.
yourself a lot of money burned or thrown away by having to throw
Because
away a
think
bunch of
about
food.
when they do those romaine lettuce recalls.
And it's a
Do
lot of
you know
food.
how much lettuce is basically just trashed?
Hmm.
Now it's not guaranteed that all of it is E. coli laden, right? But they have to institute a general recall, and a lot of good lettuce is wasted.
Especially if you can pinpoint from which farm
What
it
farm,
comes
what
from.
source, what lot number?
So you can tell the grocery stores, hey, if you have romaine lettuce from Sunnyside Up Farms, you need to throw that away instead of throwing all the lettuce away.
Hmm.
or what happens when it's already on the truck, right? So instead of destroying what's on the vehicle, you could actually stop and stop the delivery and actually inspect it on time because you have the RFID tag.
Yeah. So what you're saying is stop it in the supply chain. Whatever it stops to
Yeah.
get it read at, you can say, okay, this popping up as salmonella. Load that, but take this away and dump it or burn it.
Mhm.
Yep.
Well, you can actually inspect it before it even reaches the grocer, the marketplace.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. When it transitions on its way to the marketplace.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Promo's got some comments in the chat. I also want to welcome Jessica Kamek. I think that's the first time I've seen your name, so welcome. OARC was saying, yeah, package tracking would be very much benefiting recalls as well with that tech. Also helps backwards harden out a track to which farm. Right, exactly. That's what we were just speaking of that. Yep, ultimately combating disease, human and crop disease. Absolutely.
Yeah, this would have been beneficial in places like Haiti, where you had the United Nations MINUSTA basically spreading their diseases into the river and
Uh,
poisoning
Hmm.
those crops, as well as
uh,
the people too, getting people sick.
yeah. What was it? Cholera.
Cholera, yeah.
Cholera, yeah.
Well, in that case, you need blockchain to make sure to keep track who's in your country first,
Mm. I like that. I like that.
and
Blockchain,
then
blockchain, blockchain, blockchain.
say, hey, these during this, these people were in my country. So you need
Yep.
to bring them back. I don't care if they with their family need to bring their ass back, and we're gonna have a peaceful discussion.
Well, I know, this is starting to sound rather dystopian.
Well, you already have this in
No,
China where
I'm
they're
joking, dude. I'm joking. I'm
Let
joking.
me get to this next article.
I'm joking.
All right, this one. The next one is from machinedesign.com. How IoT is shaping the future of farming. These days, Internet of Things connected devices impact pretty much every aspect of our life. Health and fitness, automotive and logistics, smart homes, smart cities, and industrial IoT. Farming and agriculture have seen many technological transformations in the last decades, becoming more industrialized and technology driven. In this way, in this way, in this way, have we seen IoT connected devices and automation find applications in the modern world of farming and agriculture. By using smart agriculture technology, farmers have gained better control over the process of rearing livestock and growing crops, bringing about massive efficiencies of scale and cutting costs, and helping to save scarce resources such as water. The adoption of IoT solutions for agriculture is constantly growing, and global smart agricultural market size is also expanding rapidly. With all of this in mind, in what ways can technology such as IoT transform or improve agriculture? Stay in the driver's seat. By maintaining control over internal processes, you decrease production risk. The ability to foresee the output of your production allows you to plan for better product distribution. If you know exactly how much crop you are going to harvest, you can make sure your produce doesn't lie around unsold. Control costs. With the enhanced control over production, waste levels can be reduced and costs can be more effectively managed. Insight to any anomalies in the rate of crop growth or health of livestock allows you to mitigate the risk of a diminished yield or even a complete crop failure. Very big data. Data collected by smart sensors can track things such as weather conditions, soil quality, crops for growth progress, or even cattle's health. This data can be used to track the state of the operation in general, as well as other factors such as staff performance and equipment efficiency. Improve overall quality. An effective IoT solution allows you to achieve better control over the production process and to maintain higher standards to crop quality and growth capacity through automation. As a result, you can eventually expect higher revenues. One specific type of IoT product that allows for precision farming are crop management devices. Similar to weather stations, they can be placed in the field to collect data specific to crop farming. Factors that can be tracked include temperature, precipitation,
Hmm.
leaf water potential, and overall crop health. By monitoring crop growth, any anomalies any anomalies, it is possible to effectively prevent diseases or infections that can harm crop yield. Efficiencies of scale. These are brought about via process automation. By using smart devices, you can automate multiple processes right across the production cycle.
Mike, didn't you also mention that this could even be done leveraging things like Alexa?
Yeah, Alexa or Google Assistant,
Google? Yeah,
because it uses TensorFlow. And TensorFlow is an application used for machine learning and artificial intelligence. It's open
right.
source. All right, getting started. When setting out to build IoT solution for agriculture farming purposes, you need to choose the sensors for your device or create custom one. Ultimately, this will depend on the type of information that you want to collect and what you want to do with the resultant data. The quality of your sensors is crucial to success of your solution. Success depends on the accuracy of the collected data and its reliability. I mentioned that earlier that the more data you collect, the more visibility you're going to have. In one recent deployment, ThingStream managed South African nut farmer Robert Colton Shields turned to IoT in order to better manage his crop of macadamia nuts, taking into account everything from soil moisture levels through to vehicle maintenance management. Through the use of IoT, Carlton Shields has turned his farm into a model of efficiency and productivity. This is a really good article for those in the chat who want to read it. Should actually read it. It's actually pretty good.
Yeah, I didn't. I know you said that. You made that quote regarding the data, right? But I didn't know you can truly pull so much data just from in farming like that. And I didn't know that having that amount of data could definitely can you know make your growing of your crops very efficient. Like they know like temperature, growth, this the amount of growth is growing, the wind, and all these little things, right? I never thought growing food or anything was that intricate, but just seeing how much data you can collect, well, that can definitely help out a farmer. Or
It it
go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's there's kind of like two trade-offs, right? So if you're growing outdoor, you're kind of you're at the mercy of the elements, right? However, plants are growing in their natural environment. If you're going to do it in a controlled environment, then if you're able to manipulate the optimal growing environment and you're able to create it and sustain it and monitor it and have a system in place to ensure that environment is at its optimal levels, right? What as far as like the humidity, the temperature, the as far as like the type of lighting that's required for plants. Some plants require warm lighting. Some plants require like a colder light spectrum, maybe like over in the 2300K range versus in the warmer light spectrum you're at 2700K. Some plants require a mix. Some plants require different mineral requirements. So if you have a system in place to consistently maintain the optimal levels on all of that, you can maximize production in an enclosed environment much better than you can outdoor. So there's a bit of a trade-off.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I know.
Oh, nothing else to add, you all. It's a very thorough article.
So, Mike, what do you think is gonna be the pushback from this, man? Is it gonna be more of the big corporations? What type of corporation is gonna be? Is gonna offer more of a pushback on this type of growth? Because this is the direction things are going, right? Who's gonna give the biggest pushback
In terms of
of you know products? Because you kind of putting a lot more control in the farmer's hand, right? Or whoever is controlling the farm, you put more control in their hands. So it's like, who do you think is going to give this big pushback? Like, you think corporations like Monsanto is going to give more big pushback, or you think it'll be more of
no, this is
uh,
the positive. It's
okay,
not a negative. It's a positive. So farmers get more intelligence and more accuracy in their in their products, so that now they can maximize their profits.
mm,
Now, when you have a trade war like the China and the U.S. has, and your farmers are hurting,
yeah,
you know, had they known that had they had a technical analyst that could look at the trends and see what's going on, and why is that country not accepting our products anymore, you can now adjust your trajectory as to where you need to go next, and you can use a lot of the data science or the data analytics to actually scope out how much time do I have so I can make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
And now you can go to the marketplace and say, okay, well, something was supposed to go all the way into Asia Pacific, but however, I do have this 10 tons of soybeans that need to be sent away and or needs to be going to the market at a fraction of the cost. I'm not going to lose on this at all, right? I'm not going to put this on a barge, and it's not going to sit inside of China's ports, and it's not going to be go to waste.
Yep.
Okay, in terms of data analytics, right? Is this more of a new? I haven't heard too much about it, right? I think I've seen certain courses on edX about it. Um, Data analytics, right? Do you think this is going to be where kind of the cornerstone of all this? Because there's going to be so much information there, right? The data analytics. Can you kind of break down for me, like, how does that play into all this? Like those type of scientists who do data analytics, or I'm not sure too much about it. Like, can you kind of explain to me a little about it?
The analytics is just the analysis of the data lakes that the data comes from. So data has to go somewhere, and typically data goes into uncorrelated data or non-correlated data gets put into what we call a data lake. If you have some algorithms or some form of precision tool, that will give you the data analysis, and that allows you to construct data into context, which gives you data science, right? So where data analytics plays in all of this is because you have so much produce being in terms of farming, you have so much produce and so much goods being produced that really doesn't have any sort of history behind it. And what the analyst is going to do is going to create a context for it. Typically, people just buy bananas because it's yellow, but they don't actually know where it's coming from. And if they knew where it was coming from, they probably wouldn't buy it. If they knew it was coming from Latin America, where it was child slave labor, they probably wouldn't buy it.
Interesting. That's deep. That's deep.
I mean, the analytics also plays into the plant production itself.
Yeah.
As you're able to kind of come up with your own proprietary nutrient blends and stuff like that, you can record the data, as far as like the growth data. There's a lot of data is data, man. I kind of extrapolate it from like the racing environment that I'm in, right? Every single thing I can get my hands on in terms of information, I want to get it because it'll tell me something. So, view that, take that that notion and apply it to this. So the more you know about the growing environment and how it affects your overall production, the better.
Yeah, the more data you have, the more visibility you're gonna have. It just helps with seeing things better. It creates stories that needed narration before, that couldn't get the narration before. So you'll need to know some form of data analytics to be involved in any sort of new venture at this point. Every business right now is driven by analytics. That's why you have companies like SAP and Salesforce.
That's deep. You think people are ready for the real stories of where this food's coming from, man? I don't think people are ready for the stories, man.
I mean, shit, dude. They're already making fake meat that bleeds when you cook it. Okay, if people are ready to accept that shit, then I think they can accept some vegetables on the blockchain.
Yeah, especially.
It depends too. It depends too, because food coming from if a product is coming from an environment that may go against your consciousness, then that may turn a whole entire community vegan, or may turn them pescatarian. They may not want to eat red meat anymore. Look at the Muslim community.
Yeah, that's how I roll, man. I'm a pescatarian.
I know. You have anything you want
to add? No.
All right. Let me get to the next article then. All right. This one is from IoT4all.com. 4 promising IoT use cases in agriculture. IoT agriculture use cases. Below, we explore 4 use cases highlighting promising IoT applications in agriculture. Autonomous tractors. One reason why farmers may be the first adopters of autonomous vehicles is that there are no pesky pedestrians or buildings with which the tractors can collide. The acres of open land provide a low-risk testing environment in which to work out the kinks of emerging autonomous vehicle technologies. Autonomous tractors aren't just mindless driving robots, they also operate with intelligence to maximize farming efficiency. For example, CNH Industrial and ASI Robotics collaborated to build tractors that use path generated algorithms to calculate the most efficient area coverage coverage pattern for a field, taking into account the type of task, vehicle size of implements, number of vehicles in the field, implement turn radius, and more. And because these robotic tractors are driverless, they can run 24/7 in theory. Livestock monitoring. Commercial farmers aren't just harvesting crops, many also manage hundreds of thousands of livestock. And when your commodity is living, breathing, and moving creature, being able to monitor everything from health to location of livestock can prove critical to the endurance success of your business. Companies like Telit are developing IoT-enabled livestock management solutions. They are embedding connected sensors into livestock wearables in order to monitor heart rate, blood pressure, respiratory rate, temperature, and even digestion. These sensors can also track animals' location to help find sick animals while also identifying optimal grazing patterns. The sensors then send data to the cloud, allowing farmers to identify and address problems in their herds faster via user interfaces. Connected beehives. While many this year were planting wildflowers to help bolster declining bee populations, one Portuguese company took a more modern approach to monitor our honeymakers. API's Bee App is a web-based platform with an interface that allows beekeepers to manage their hives remotely and collect data to assess the health of their bees. The app even serves as a project management tool by enabling beekeepers to schedule events and execute tasks to take care of their colonies. Moreover, their Smart Hive package provides you with all the hardware, temperature, regulating cork for your hives, and HiveGate that counts bees as they come and go.
Damn.
Precision farming. Precision farming.
What's that, Jack?
No, let me finish this.
Okay.
Ultimately, all of these use cases are enveloped by a larger practice of precision farming. Companies like Monit are supporting precision AG with use cases in greenhouse monitoring, in which wireless sensors are deployed throughout a commercial grower's industrial greenhouse. Sensors check and record the greenhouse temperature, allowing the grower to monitor this data on their sensor map, including custom notifications if temperature or humidity levels hit specified thresholds. Precision farming enables farmers to operate more efficiently by providing deeper operational insight and control. You gentlemen have anything you want to add to this?
Damn.
What was that you were going to say, Jack?
No, I was just like, I was kind of like laughing, kind of like while he's reading this, because it's like my grandfather, he was a beekeeper, and I'm like, the technology they're using, this is crazy, man. Like this is like next level that they can able to, if it's disregarded to the bees, like they can count the amount of bees going in and out, and also too, the sensors being used for these animals, they can check for heartbeat, temperature, all these certain type of things, man. Like
you're basically just using Fitbits. You're using Fitbits for animals, and I mean, in terms of the bees, I mean, yeah, I was kind of floored by that one too, Jack. Like,
Yeah.
I looked into like this is years ago, man. I looked into like, doing an apiary type of thing for bees and stuff, and recently, I think it was last year, I think bees were kind of I think they were put on the endangered species list,
Yeah. That's
you
true.
know? Right. So, I mean, when Mike was reading the article and it said it literally tracks the number of the bees, I was like,
Jeez.
shit.
That's
Yeah.
and I think they're just scratching the surface with this type of technology, man. It is
Well, you
uh,
factor in they probably use something like LiDAR.
mm.
It
I'm saying
probably
that
does.
if
It
you
probably does
the
a
count
sweep. It probably does a sweep
The
every
sweep.
every
Hmm.
so many nanoseconds.
but it can catch that finite amount of bees. You know how small bees are?
With LiDAR, yeah,
I
with
think LiDAR is
LiDAR,
more
yeah.
for like cars and people, man. Like bees?
Okay, but if you're using it for cars, then absolutely, absolutely, it'll work for bees. You're gonna need it if it's gonna work for cars. You would need it to be able to scan like how many bees are in a colony.
Mm,
Well, because it's application specific, right? So the only thing it has to look for is bees.
mm.
So it doesn't have to look for anything else. Anything else is just irrelevant. It just doesn't apply. So whether or not a dragonfly or a butterfly comes in there, that doesn't matter.
This is remarkable. I didn't know that was possible. But
And that's why we're having this hangout.
yeah, touche, man. That's true. Cause dang, like bees, man. I didn't know that was possible. Anything for bees is like, what else can you use it for? So
Well, and I think it's crucial that you because again, man, dude, I never thought in my lifetime that bees would be on the damn endangered species list.
Hmm.
I mean, even I think they just put monarch butterflies on the endangered species list. I think I just read that this week.
Hmm.
These are things I used to just see all the damn time. Hell, I've been stung by a couple of bees. You know what I mean? Now it's like there's none around to sting me anymore. Like what?
Hmm. Well, I'd rather be, I'd rather get stung by a bee than some other strange foreign object,
Right.
foreign insect. You know what I mean?
Or a
Okay.
damn, clipped by a damn drone out of the sky. I'd rather just be a bee that stings me.
All right. Let me hit this next article.
Wait, Christian he's literally at the Phantom of the Opera with his wife right and his parents right now. Hold on, let me shout him out.
All right. This next one is from expresscomputer.in.india. IoT powered smart farming, the future of agriculture. Let's face it. Actually, let me go to the article. A whole lot of time. Well, how can we manage? Let's face it. We are presently facing an unprecedented food security challenge. As per recent studies, this situation is going to get even worse, with some estimates pointing out that we have to increase our farm output by staggering 60% in the next 10 years, almost double it by 2050 to keep up with demand while using fewer resources. But how do we manage to do that? The old way of applying water, fertilizers, and pesticides uniformly across the entire field can only take us so far. What this situation demands is a more scientific farming approach, or rather a connected one to be more precise, where we use a range of AI-powered smart sensors to monitor and optimize the usage of resources as well as the yield. Does this sound very futuristic? No, it's not. Thanks to the latest advances in IoT and other associated technologies, AI-powered sensors are becoming smaller, lighter, powerful, accurate, and most importantly, affordable. This makes them ideal for deployment across the field to monitor and obtain real time insights about moisture levels, sunlight, wind speed, and a host of other factors to make informed decisions. Unlocking the future. Um, It should, yeah, it should be imagining. Imagining the kind of benefits that we can unlock when we connect these AI-powered devices with other advanced technologies such as big data and cloud. I'm not much of a green thumb, but if I have an app that could sense and communicate to me that the plants in my backyard needs water or some other kind of nourishment, wouldn't I be able to tend to the plants more sensibly to keep them healthier for longer? IoT powered sensors deployed in the field does the same exact thing for farmers, well, obviously on a larger scale and help them increase yield and reduce wastage. Exactly what the industry needs. I don't want to read the whole entire thing, but so again, IoT comes to the rescue in terms of the technical application behind aggregated or agritech farming.
Yeah, I was going to say it's just another case study in the positive impact of IoT on farming. Yeah, that was going to be just how I'm summing that up.
When it comes to these sensors for these IoT products, is there any leading companies that kind of um lead in the manufacture of these sensors? Because I think like maybe we need people are kind of sleeping on these sensors. I think this might be something that's big that maybe we should try to invest in, or companies should look up into. Because uh the I think the sensors play a big key in all this, a big role in all this. So what companies right now do you know of that are big as far as the sensors right now, as far as IoT sensors?
Oh, there's so many customized solutions. I mean, there's
Yeah,
no one, company that has the best sensors, or anything like that. It's
Mm,
all really customized to your environment and your
yeah,
use cases. So, I
okay.
mean, IBM has a whole entire analytics cloud for agriculture or agritech, I should say.
Mm,
You have Analog Devices, who's another big manufacturer of IoT now. Stanley Black and Decker. They're a big IoT manufacturer now because of all their power tools and whatnot. There's so many areas. It's just it's really just about use case and the client itself.
okay.
yeah. I mean, because you look like as far as like sensors and stuff like that. I mean, you can run the gamut, right? You could source that hardware from China if you wanted to, right? Or in some instances, I know of a grow operation in Arizona. So the sensor portion of the entire grow operation, he's an ex-military guy, and it's all mil spec stuff, right? So that's completely on the high end scale of it. When you're using mil spec for anything, that's like expensive, 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 right? And then there's the stuff that's off the shelf.
Mhm. All right, this one is from TechTarget.com. Agricultural AI yields better crops through data analytics. I think we discussed
Ooh.
this. The
Mm-hmm.
use of the use of agricultural AI optimizes the farming industry by decreasing workloads and analyzing harvesting data and improving accuracy through seasonal forecasting. Agriculture has constantly improved with the introduction of various technologies, from motorized equipment to biotechnology. Following business trends, the agricultural industry is looking to maximize efficiency by turning to AI technologies. AI technology has been implemented to help yield healthier crops, reduce workloads, organize data, and improve wide range of tasks in this $5 trillion industry. Data power is optimizing farming. A modest estimate puts 75 million IoT agricultural devices in use by 2020 and 4.1 million daily data points per farm by 2050. The volume of data collected through technologies range from farm machinery to drone imagery is is too abundant for humans to process. Farmers and agricultural technology workers are turning to AI to help analyze data points, thus enhancing value derived from these data sources. I mentioned that earlier in discussion that more data that you have collected, then more visibility you're going to have. Farms produce hundreds of thousands of data points on the ground each day. With the implementation of agricultural AI, farmers can now analyze weather conditions, temperature, water usage, or soil conditions collected from their farm to inform decisions. AI technologies are helping determine the feasible crop choices or which hybrid seeds will increase profit and decrease waste. In addition to ground data, computer vision deep learning algorithms process data captured from drones and unmanned aircraft systems. AI combined with unmanned aircraft systems and drones can capture images of the entire farm and analyze images in near real time, monitoring and analyzing soil health and conditions of crops across the entire farm, as well as identifying problem areas. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but actually, I'll read this one part right here. I think this is very interesting. Additionally, farmers are taking advantage of chatbots for assistance to seek advice and recommendations on specific problems. Chatbots are already being used in numerous industries with great success, so it's no surprise that AI-powered chatbots should help farmers as well. Through the use of agricultural AI and cognitive technologies, farms across the world are able to run more efficiently to produce fundamental staples of our dietary lifestyles. So chatbots are actually, yeah, sorry, chatbots are actually very useful in this case because you don't actually need an expert. As long as there's data fed to the chatbot, then the chatbot can actually give you a more precise answer.
Okay, so just to be clear, so a chat box kind of like breaks down all the data and make it a simpler form, gives it to the person in a simpler form. Is that what it does? And
A chatbot is like a robocall.
okay,
Yeah, so I'm saying on the phone, a chatbot would actually on a smartphone or a tablet, a chatbot would actually respond to your questions.
okay, hmm, that's that's huge right there. That's huge.
Yeah, because it's artificial intelligence driven, right? So it's basically saying, oh well, oh by the way, tomorrow is Tuesday and it's going to be 60 and balmy or something to that effect, and then all of a sudden it starts giving you this information. Then you inquire more, and then it gives you more information back based on whatever you're inquiring about, which your inquiry is
It's like a
about.
it's like a Alexa for like farmers or whatever, something like that, right? You would say something in that.
Exactly. It's
Okay,
exactly what it is.
okay, that's deep.
Yep,
That's
that's
really
it
deep.
right there.
Hmm. That would make things so simple for certain farmers. Again, like even when I'm looking at certain articles for it's dealing with Africa, a lot of people are not really accustomed to the technology. So something like that, where they get to speak to it and can tell them what they need to do. Shoot, that's perfect, right?
Hmm.
So I think that's a great idea. That's uh that's next level. That's good.
Hmm.
We can either fear this stuff or embrace it, man.
Hmm. Let me read this one last article. All right, this one is from Nanalyze.com. 6 IoT agricultural solutions from Agtech startups. There are about 7.6 billion people on our little spinning blue ball. That number is projected to surge to about 10 billion by mid-century. You know what that means? Yes, longer queues and lines for a restroom at Yo-Yo Ma concerts. Who the fuck wrote this shit?
You don't like yo-yo, ma?
Man, it also means that the world will need to produce about 60 to 70% more food calories by 2050 to feed our future population. Not only will there be about 2 billion more mouths to feed, but the global middle class is projected to grow enormously, and we're not just talking about their waistlines. China alone will have a population with disposable income that will be larger than the United States in the not too distant future. That all means we need to get smarter about how we grow our food. Technology to the rescue through the use of IoT in agriculture. IoT in agriculture for daily operations. Cows are sacred in India, which has been the world's leading milk producer for more than 20 years. Talk about lots of cow manure and market potential. No bullshit. No wonder Stella Apps out of Bangalore, India, raised $14 million in May from organizations and firms as diverse as the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and Qualcomm. The latter is no doubt interested in the 7-year old startup's 26 different sensors that collect data across the entire cow supply chain. For example, wearable devices collect health data by monitoring the number of standing resting hours on a daily basis. Another instrument can analyze fat content of milk. All that information is collected and collated in the cloud. We've seen other cloud-based systems for livestock monitoring from startups like Herd Dog, which recently raised $2.3 million in the seed round. There's a lot of money going around in the startup sector. Stella Apps offers a suite of applications for everything from milk production to procurement, as well as a mobile payment app and even an insurance app, MooCare, of course, which provides estimates based on IoT data in herd health and output. IoT in agriculture for weather prediction at the farm. Founded in 2013 out of New Jersey, Arable has raised 9.8 million for its multifaceted crop and weather sensor named the Mark. Arable recently hired a former Monsanto executive who had led the ag company's IoT platform division as its new CEO. The Mark is capable of collecting about 40 different types of data, from rain and hail to irrigation needs and even air pollution. Interesting.
Jeez, Monsanto has an IoT division.
Well, he came from Monsanto, but I
Right.
don't know. Yeah.
Wow.
IoT in agriculture to gain grain storage. That's interesting. Founded in 2014, Telesense in Silicon Valley just announced $6.5 million A in August. Series A in August. Apparently, there's a lot more involved in grain supply chain than just waiting around to buy overpriced uh, art, artisan loaves of sourdough wheat at the local farmers market. Grain storage is one of them. Telesense has developed a sensor ball, which looks like a dog's chew toy, that is that is just tossed onto a pile of grain. It then transmits data multiple times a day about the temperature and humidity in the grains in the storage facility in order to avoid spoilage and other problems, which can cause upwards to $12 billion in losses each year. The company's artificial intelligence platform, GrainSafe, can also help with decisions such as optimal time to sell in order to boost profits. Telesense also provides sensors and solutions for cold storage and food transportation. IoT in agriculture for pest management. Founded in 2013, an Israeli startup called Tilden has raised a total of $5 million, including $4 million in January, to help specialty growers to manage pest control. Special sensors monitor pesticide applications. AI algorithms then go to work, pulling in sensor data and often information such as weather to help with more precise pesticide application. There is a growing need to improve and limit the use of chemical inputs like pesticides and herbicides, which can affect both human health and the environment. A startup called Blue River Technology, for instance, had used computer vision for better weed control. Dare and company, Dare and Company eventually bought Blue River for about $305 million last year, triple the amount that had been invested up until then. Wow. IoT and agriculture for utility management. I don't want to read too much of that. IoT and agriculture for drone deployment. How much money did they raise? 3.1, 4.8. Yeah, so IoT and agriculture and Agritech is where it's at. That's what the tech application is behind it. You gentlemen have anything you want to add to this?
Yeah, I was going to say, and all of this is just basically a good follow up to the discussion we had last Saturday on IoT. So we're looking at more of a specified industrial application of more of a general technology that we kind of gave an overview on last week. And this week largely has been talking about a lot of things IoT and IoT related to agriculture, so the kind of the marriage of the two. You've got Agritech. So very interesting stuff, man.
Jack, I know you have anything you want to add to this?
All right. I was gonna ask you real quick, what from your experience, you guys' experience, when you start seeing a lot of monies being flowed into these startups that relate into like a new type of field, right? Do you think that people are just starting to see more of the value in it, or you think people just want to? I know they want a piece of pie to put their money into it, but overall, what does that mean when you start seeing a lot more money going to startups like this?
It means that there's a trusted product. Usually, you don't get support in startup space for a product unless it has some form of value or merit, or it's been proven that it can actually do what you say it can do. I've been in the startup space probably last 3 or 4 years, maybe, and worked at a couple of startups, and I can tell you, I've sat down with millennials who are non-black that are getting money. Okay, they getting money. They getting $50, $100, $275 million for an application that hasn't even worked out all the bugs yet.
Yep.
Yeah.
I sat down, had lunch with them, had beer with them at restaurants, and see on certain websites that or on business journals where they're taking pictures and selfies, and they sold their startup to some venture capitalist firm for $80 million or $200 million, and they're sitting, and, they're humble. They're having these conversations. That's why I like to have these conversations, because we have to actually discuss it first before we can have, so we can have some form of complex thought.
Yep. I absolutely agree with Mike, man. I had something to kind of follow up on that, but honestly, I don't. That's pretty much it in a nutshell.
So you've seen it done.
I've seen it done. I've seen it done
That's
by
what I'm
kids
saying,
half
yeah.
my age.
Yeah,
Kids
I
half
mean,
my age.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I as well. I've been involved in some projects myself, so that's kind of why I take the tone that I take, is because I've kind of seen it firsthand. I've been involved in it, in a few different projects and stuff. So it's really to kind of give you another answer to your question, though, Jack. Another thing is viability in the market, right? So that's going to be the other side to this, right? Anyone who's going to throw $200 million at something, at an idea, already knows that there's some viability in the market that idea is going to serve, right? So in their mind, it's like, okay, there's already going to be a market for this. Okay. The idea for this market, yeah, we like it. Boom, here's the money.
Mhm.
So there's already a recognition that there's a pre-existing market, right, where this idea may be applicable.
Yeah, and a lot of times I rarely ever see black people, especially black men, in that startup space. I've met guys online, but I've never seen them in person. But when I was in Atlanta, there was a lot of talented cats down there, but they weren't getting that same type of bread. I mean, we're talking seven figures and up. So
What is it? You think? Well, okay, so let's break it down. What is it? Is it the type of ideas they're coming out with, or like what do you think? What's the problem?
people aren't having deep discussions. If you don't come from that sort of environment where people aren't challenging you mentally and actually technologically speaking, it's going to be hard for you to innovate because you're not having complex thought. That's where innovation comes from, complex thought. And a lot of times, even in the YouTube manosphere, guys are just not having those conversations.
Money's not going to be put behind anything that's not going to corner a market, right? I'm not going to throw $200 million at something that I can't see making 500 million from. So to follow up on what Mike is saying, it's like innovative ideas are going to be the ideas of value, especially in the tech sphere. Those are going to be the ideas that are going to garner the $200 million in funding, right? It's not going to be a damn app that's going to tell you like, the barber closest around you that gives you the best fade. That's not going to solicit $200 million in funding.
No, and selling snapbacks and silk screen T-shirts is not the business. It's not the business at all. You gotta
Not in
have
2019.
you gotta have a solution that corrects a problem that everybody else seems to be facing. And a lot of these IoT solutions are actually correcting the problem that many farmers are actually having. So that's where the money is coming from. So they see it. They see the future of it, and that's where we are right now. But if you grew up in the hood and all you know is do rags and swag, I mean, what kind of conversation are you really gonna have?
Mm. So from what I'm taking from your brothers is it's time to stop sitting on the sideline and getting in the game, man. That's really what the game is about. So to me, when you guys explain, it's about viable solutions, right? That can corner the market. So and I think we're in the sidelines right now. We need to get in the game, get serious and step our game up, man. Because you're talking about these cats getting money like that, and
I'm
we
I'm
behind. We're behind, man. We need to get in the game.
I'm in Boston, and I can tell you that we're the number one city in startups in this country.
Mm-hmm.
Number one city the last few years. So
Yep.
I've seen guys, have these incubators and these accelerators and stuff like that, and just watch the way they move and listen to the way they talk about things. You got to have some form of literacy to actually keep up with them.
Yep.
So the reason why we have these tech hangouts and stuff like that and these geopolitics hangouts is because to create that form of literacy.
Okay.
The other thing too, Jack, the other thing to that too is we talked about the food deserts in urban areas, right? What market is cornered? It's wide open.
Mm.
It's there for you to corner. It's wide open. Now you can give it to you. Look, let Amazon get around to it, and I'm pretty sure at some point them or someone else will ultimately. Yeah, babe. Okay, I'll be in there in just a second. Okay, hold on, I'll be in there in just a second. I'll be in there in just a second. Sorry, that's my daughter. But the market is there to be cornered. That's the thing, in a lot of these urban spaces and stuff, it's there. It's not. It hasn't been cornered. It's again the buildings sit abandoned, right? They're there on the auction block, pennies on the dollar. Real estate is all around. It's all dilapidated. Weeds growing. What the hell?
It's going for pennies on the dollar.
Shit.
We covered an article last summer where a mall with 1 million square feet went for $100 on auction block.
Dude, $100, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's you see that type of money flowing around in the super chats on certain people's hangouts. That money could have been put to very good use. So, anyways, let me get to this next portion. So question 4 is what is a social equity program? Complex, do you want to answer this?
Yeah,
Oh
you know
no,
what? Can you go ahead and preface it? I'm gonna run my daughter's
yep.
bathwater.
Go
Give me
ahead,
give
go
me
ahead, go
just a minute. Give me just
ahead.
a minute.
Yep. Especially social equity programs is a platform designed, is a political platform designed to address social issues that affected minorities. And in social equity programs, they tend to address areas where there was a political decision made that drove policy to affect those on the ground that were disadvantaged. And with social equity programs, they tend to focus on Black and brown issues. So anything such as stop and frisk, um, gun unlawful possession of a firearm, and so on and so forth. Marijuana, cannabis. That's where those programs and those platforms come from, or what they're designed for. Once those platforms go into place, it's kind of stipulated who's going to benefit from it. A lot of people have said in the past that these are reparations. I don't agree with that initially, but I understand the premise of it. And in some way, it is reparations for those who are affected by public policy. So that's typically what a social equity program has been in a nutshell.
Okay. I stepped out for a quick second. Let me give you my 2 cents on it. So, I mean, another, and we've discussed this at length. When I get over back to my laptop in a few minutes, I'm going to post a link to a playlist of cannabis industry hangouts that we've done last year and part of 2017, where we really dug into a lot of the nuts and bolts on social equity programs as it relates to this. But in short, it's basically what Mike said. And we have to kind of view social equity programs as reparations. I mean, conceptually speaking, how we view reparations, that's not how it will be had. It will be had in the form of access to something that was once used against you. That's essentially, by definition, what a reparation is, right? So whatever it was that used against you, now it's been afforded to you for your benefit. Okay, so a social equity program to me is kind of like coded language for that. That's kind of my take on it. However, it's largely there to address issues of over policing, policy enforcing on certain segments of the population, and what's going to be done to redress those violations. In LA, if you live in a certain zip code, for example, right? So that means that back in the days, back in like the crack era 80s and shit like that, there were literally certain zip codes, right, that were marked by the police. Now, if you live in those zip codes now, okay, we're going to put you to the front of the line. Or if you lived in those zip codes during the time where the policing was taking place, you're put to the front of the line with regards to any business inquiries, applications for permits, licenses involved in the cannabis industry, stuff like that. This is essentially what a social equity program is, and you can kind of see how that can kind of serve as a form of reparation.
Yeah, people call it what they call direct reparations. So basically, it goes to that specific person that was affected by it, right? Typically, when people talk about reparations in the black community, we talk about just showering everybody. So Matt Barnes ends up with Matt Barnes and that guy Sean King ends up with reparations, despite the fact their background.
Right. Right. Yeah. But I mean, yeah, I mean, just in terms of that though, I mean, like I said, we had kind of discussed this at length, man, throughout the early portion of last year about the nature of this being a form of reparation. Now, hold on one second. I'm just walking out into the garage here, so you're gonna hear a doorbell. So we talked about how Cynthia Nixon, the actress from Sex and the City, she was running for Cuomo's seat in New York. How she had run on a platform of social equity, because New York is basically, I think they're legit legal across the board. I think recreational and medical. I'm not 100% certain, but during her bid for Cuomo's seat in New York, she ran on a platform of social equity with regards to the cannabis industry in New York. And she used the word reparation. And basically, a lot of the black pastors in New York, Al Sharpton and a few others, they went ahead and did what they typically do, when a white person brings up reparations and stuff like that, and they took it as an affront. However, when you look at the definition of what the word reparation means, I mean, it was very apropos in how she was trying to leverage it. And she was saying, "Hey, look, I'm running on a platform here of if the state of New York is going to legalize this stuff across the board, I think we need to be bringing the people that you guys heavily policed over the last 20, 30, 40 years. I think they need to have first seat at the table if we're going to do this." I didn't see anything wrong with it.
All right, let me just get to next question, which is question 5. What is the business case and impact for social equity in regards to cannabis? You want to take that, Complex?
So, the business case. Well, okay. Well, let's use hemp, because hemp just recently, with the passage of the new farm bill, became completely legal. We're talking from a federal level all the way on down. So let's take hemp. So in 2020, the hemp industry is slated to be at about $20 billion. $20 billion for 2020. And we've been in the industry. You guys know him as Anti-Gravity, Noah and myself. We've been in the industry now for a couple of years here, and so we know that the barrier of entry, or the access to entry to this industry, it's relatively low. So participation can be had, by Black folks with regards to this industry. The ability to create products, different types of services, and all that stuff. It's not a difficult thing to do. And this is a lucrative industry. So I see a lot of opportunity, quite frankly. And I see a budding industry. I've mentioned this before. I look at hemp and cannabis as sort of like the final kind of like natural resource that we have immediate and ready access to. It's literally a seed that you can put in the ground and grow it out. Now, and I liken it to the oil boom of the turn of the 20th century. Now, imagine if we had access to oil, much like the Rockefellers did at that time, kind of like that we do now with the kind of access that we have to hemp and cannabis. Now you can see from a future trajectory standpoint where we could be, you know, and say the next 5 to 10 to 15 years, if this was an industry that we wholesale chose to engage in full scale on you know from A to Z in terms of the supply chain. Much like how we kind of did with like rap and stuff, but we never got into, well, I did, but we never really truly got into manufacturing and distribution. You know, so if we were to take a whole scale approach to this, because again, it's wide open right now. The passage of the Farm Bill just happened a few weeks ago. You know, and there's still yet to be a federal mandate on cannabis as a whole. So we still ain't even there yet. But shit, hemp, game on. So really, it's if nothing is garnered from this, it's largely due to our own interaction, our own inaction.
Mm-hmm. Mano, you have anything you want to add to this?
No.
All right. Let me get to link on the docket. For those of you who are just now joining us, we are, if you look in the docket, we are at 5A, so 5 Alpha. All right, this one is from cbc.ca. Some assembly required cannabis grow pods turn into new business opportunities for Winnipeg company. Pods made from renovated shipping containers being sold to producers around the country as turnkey solution. About 6 months ago, Delta 9 Cannabis CEO John Arbuthnot was busy getting ready for the looming legalization of cannabis. There was the behind-the-scenes planning for his company's first retail pot store, the creation of supply agreements with other cannabis sellers, and then the expansion of Delta 9 secure growing facilities in East Winnipeg. Then Arbuthnot got a call about another business opportunity. A cannabis producer had seen a news story about Delta 9 and wanted to know more if the Winnipeg company would sell its grow pods to help build out the first phase of the producer's facility. Really? Quote, really? You know, a little bit disbelief, Arbuthnot remembers thinking. The pods are essentially renovated shipping containers that are turned into highly controlled cannabis growing spaces. Each pod can produce roughly 32.5 kilograms of cannabis per year, valued at somewhere between 300,000 to 400,000 I think that's Canadian dollars at current retail prices. Delta 9 uses them to grow all of its product and now sells the pods as a turnkey solution for producers who want an efficient way to grow while reducing the risk of crop failure. We already heard horror stories from the rest of the industry on some major crop losses at big open greenhouse facilities. With the pod system, all of the risk is compartmentalized. If there is a risk of contamination, it's contained within one area, and that risk is mitigated. The pods are all about quality control, he says. They prevent airflow from one control room to another, and Delta 9 says if there is a problem with the crop, like plant disease, pest, or fungus, because it's contained, they can destroy it and sterilize the pod and only lose about $10,000 in product. Sign of Growth says Cannabis Council. The stackable pods have turned into a major source of revenue for Delta 9. The company has sold them to producers in Brantford, Ontario, and out west in Victoria. Once they are built by the 35 different tradespeople at Delta 9's construction facility, they are delivered by truck almost ready to use. Delta 9's grow pods are just one example of how cannabis companies are using innovation to get product to market, said Alan Rock, Executive Director of Cannabis Council of Canada, the national organization for Canada's licensed producers. This is just a picture of the facility. I'll play this video real quick. All right, what they're showing in the video is the manufacturing of the pods through the shipping containers.
I know a guy who has a shipping container grow out near Palm Springs. He has one. He has one out in Palm Springs, and he actually employs former servicemen as security. But yeah, it's all in shipping containers, all on some plot of land that he's leased for somebody. And I think he's given them a financial interest in the business, and the guy like basically just gave him access to the land.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, like the risks in this type of business, right? They were talking about how they can minimize, risks due to fungus or bacteria or certain things like that. But um, it does make a lot of money. It does make money, but the thing is that the risk, right? You just need like three of these, and you set. You can make good money. You can make good income with that. But you know, I'm just focused on the risk about it. Like, you know, there's something that you need security, right? Because each pod is, you know, what is it, like a 48? That's like a 48-foot pod. Like
That's
a 40,
40 footer.
like a 40-footer is like you're talking about can produce 300,000 to 400,000. That's money, but the risk is about the security. You need security when it comes to that. Is that an issue right now? This
Oh yeah, you need armored cars.
hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quickly changing, but yeah, there's a lot of because as far as cannabis goes, we're not we're not there yet. As far as a mandate in terms of federal legalities, right? We're not there yet. We're there with hemp, right? So I was just replying to Jessica in the chat. Hemp is now across the board legal. So we're there with hemp, not with cannabis as of yet. So yeah, it's like what Mike said. You still got armored trucks with loads of cash rolling around, like basically the roving banks for the cannabis industry and stuff. Not everything is legally in a setting where you could then employ security, the proper type of security measures for a type of industry like this. It's still very renegade right now until there's a federal mandate that legalizes it across the board that allows for the transacting and banking and all that kind of stuff. It's just not quite there just yet.
And this is my question. Okay, it can produce that type of, it give you that type of return, but how much does it cost to run one a year? Like, what is it? Because I don't know how the cost is as far as growth, but like, how much does it cost to run a container a year? Just with
In
lights
terms
and the
of,
power, and like what does that run out to be?
oh, okay, that I would have to. Yeah, I haven't really done the research on that.
Oh, okay.
We'll get into that in question 6.
Okay.
Let me see. Puff Puff Pass. Well, I know you have anything you want
Nah, I'm more listening in this segment, learning.
to add? All right. Let me share my screen. Forbes.com. cannabis is revitalizing an old mill town in Massachusetts.
Oh, really now?
Yeah, this is a video, so gotta wait for it to play.
Worcester.
Yeah, Worcester.
Worcester. Wait, how do you say it?
It's Worcester.
Yeah, I hear there's multiple ways of saying that, but I figure I'd ask the Bostonian.
From THC-infused coffee pods to CBD bath bombs, Revolutionary Clinics is capitalizing on the public's growing interest in marijuana investments. So they took over an old mill to set up their factory or set up their operations for cannabis.
Repurposing pre-existing structures.
You know what, man? I think all that type of market is real, man. Like even my wife, she's like, she buys hemp everything, and I'm like, what do you like? What do you like? Is there a difference in it? Oh, just it's hemp. You know what I'm saying? Like she's in love with that type of stuff. So I guess it's there's a big market for these type of things, man. I already see it, just in my own life, and this other people I know too. They heavily support these type of items. So like coffee infused with THC, I didn't think that was possible.
Shit. What?
I can get
I
never
can
know you
tell
can
you
do
what's
that.
possible, bro. We'll talk about that offline. I'm sorry.
All right.
Yeah. Basically, I met this guy before. I met these people before. These are the type of people I'm talking about. They're
Yep, these are the guys. You wouldn't, if you saw them on the street, you wouldn't know that they were in the weed business. Put it like that.
and not only in the weed business, but they're getting millions.
Right.
They're
Exactly.
getting bread big time.
Oh God, man. See, when I see this type of shit, it really kind of gets under my skin because look, I literally got homies, man, that have done some time over some weed, right? And I'm seeing these dudes same age. Look at this dude. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. He's never. The cops never rolled up on him over some weed shit ever. Look at how he's sitting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like
I
he's
bet he
never
really
been
think.
rolled. He's never been. He's on Forbes magazine, right? Talking intellectually about this industry. He's never been hassled for weed in his fucking life. And
Yeah.
I got homies that had like shit 2 ounces on them. Right, that ain't nothing, man. There's people walking in dispensaries out here and drop 300 on 2 zips, easy. It's nothing. They walk out. It's no problem. But these are like my dogs, man, like homies and shit that did like 2 and 3 years over this type of shit. So it's kind of hard to look at this type of stuff sometimes, for me anyway.
Let me jump to this next article. This one is from WGBH.org. This is very local to me. Dorchester leaders suggest co-ops to boost equity in cannabis industry.
Mm-hmm.
Cooperative ownership of marijuana stores emerged Monday night as a possible new approach to involving more local entrepreneurs of modest means in the emerging industry. This idea drew immediate support from the chairman of the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission, Barry Martin, a longtime member of Meeting House Hills Civic Association in Dorchester, suggested the state authorize the creation of co-op retail stores. He spoke during a meeting of 50 neighborhood leaders at the Strand Theater down the street from me. The little publicized gathering was called so that Dorchester Civic Group, seeing a rise in cannabis store applications, could engage with responsible state and city officials. Quote, could there possibly be consideration for a co-op where people in the city could pool and become one large piece of the market? Martin asked, directing his question to Cannabis Control Commission Chair Stephen J. Hoffman and Alexis M. Uh, Techchuck, a senior advisor in the city's Office of Emerging Industries. Hoffman endorsed the idea, which also received vocal support from several civic association leaders present. Quote, I actually think your idea is a great one, Hoffman said, responding to Lawton. Quote, I think it makes a lot of sense, and I commit right now in public that I will work that issue. Hoffman pointed to the state law that already allows small cultivators to band together in craft marijuana cooperatives, sharing resources and costs. The law only permits them to cultivate, process, package, brand, and deliver marijuana to establishments. Currently, co-ops are not allowed to own and operate them. Hoffman said, even though craft cultivators are the sole establishment type that's allowed to form cooperatives, extending that model to entrepreneurs is, quote, an interesting idea to investigate. It seems to work in the context of small farmers, so why not explore whether it can work for small inner city business people, he explained. Cautioning that additional legislation may be needed to enable such a program. Commissioner Shalene Title, who did not attend the meeting and agreed the concept has potential. Quote, I think the idea is worth exploring, especially considering that the lack of capital is such a barrier. Title told WGBH News in the phone interview Tuesday. Title holds social justice seat on the Cannabis Control Commission and said for now, the agency is focused on collecting data from craft cultivators to see what their challenges are so we can address them before rolling out more cooperative options. Other states have tried similar cooperative structures. Both California and Colorado have allowed the formation of marijuana cooperatives. California recently began bringing them under more strict regulation, while Colorado reversed course and banned them outright. Another issue raised at the meeting, potentially expanding the definition of a buffer zone around marijuana establishment. Right now, the commission's regulation prohibits recreational marijuana establishments within 500 feet of an existing K-12 school unless its municipality allows otherwise. Some Dorchester civic leaders said they preferred a definition that also bars establishment near where, quote, where children commonly congregate, such as boys and girls clubs, playgrounds, and recreation centers.
Parks, yeah.
The phrase comes from the buffer zone definition outlined by the state health department, which regulated medical marijuana in the state until last month. So, to answer your question, Jack, this is where it comes in, co-ops.
Now, it's interesting because on the one hand, they kind of take a position to push co-ops out, right? But at the same token, co-ops are actually what would enable the entrepreneur to pursue it. You have to take sort of like a collective co-op approach because this is an agricultural product at the end of the day. Even farms are parts of co-ops. Large-scale farms are all the local farmers around there, everything that they do is, put into, they either contribute a portion or they actually farm for a co-op. Some of them may have like private farming contracts and stuff like that with large-scale multinational producers. But in this space here, and while we're doing this, let me dig it up in the email because I sent something out here earlier in the week in the email chain, and it was a 1-hour discussion. This group I follow, and they were talking about hemp farming co-ops and how to put them together in order to compete with big business. And so that's essentially where the competition for big business is going to come in. It's going to come in the form of co-ops. So, a warning sign is that if legislation is passed that largely hinders a co-op's ability to do business in that industry, then that's a sign that the legislation was written and largely backed by big business. That's what happened here in California, because that's what we had. We had a whole bunch. We had co-ops, we had buyers clubs, we had there were different types of communal nonprofit type organizations that existed here in California before the passage of Prop 64. Once we went full legalization, that essentially either nuked those co-ops, or those co-ops essentially kind of got co-opted, pun slightly intended, by big business that came in with just money. A lot of VCs flush with cash.
So at the end of with these co-ops, who do you think wins at the end? Is mostly the state. Do the state win? Because if they're pushing it, did the state win in this, or you think it's more this? Kind of depends where
Um,
the investors
I
are.
mean, I mean, the thing is this, right? So if the state, as long as the state is receiving revenue, they win.
Mm,
Okay. What it comes down to, though, is who is making the money from the production and sales standpoint, right? The state's going to make its money through the licensing, the permitting, the taxation,
hmm
the excise taxation, all that shit. The state's going to get its money, right? It's going to get its money. It's all about who is going to benefit from the business side of it, though.
mm,
Right? That's where big business comes in and lobbies politicians to write legislation on their behalf. So the business is the legislation in terms of the business of how the business is going to function in that state is geared towards their business model. That's what gives them the benefit and the advantage. As it stood here in California, the way it was with the what we call the Compassionate Care Act. That's what we had here. So
hmm
it was all set up to where it was like you couldn't have a for-profit business doing business. You can make money, yes, but it couldn't be a for-profit business. You had to be organized as a nonprofit.
mm,
Okay. And so what that did was it evenly distributed things, right? It kept certain things. So like if you were just making a shit ton of money and rolling around in expensive cars and all this type of stuff, okay, you know what? That's going to signal something to the authorities because you're supposed to be running a nonprofit,
mm.
right? So we had it right originally. And people just got too high on the weed that they've been smoking here and voted for Prop 64 and totally like screwed shit up. It literally it affected our business. It literally affected our business. I wasn't in favor of it.
Okay, so it largely depends on the business model. Then kind of explains the
Yeah.
business
Well, I mean,
model.
the business model now is going to be if you came here to California flush with cash,
Yeah.
all the local delivery services all tanked, and now you have companies like Eves. They're a tech company. It's
Mm.
a tech company. They're the ones doing a lot of the deliveries now, and a lot of the people who have their own delivery services, they do delivery for ease. They basically became like weed Uber drivers, so to speak.
So son, you gonna say something, Mike?
No, I'm saying that we got another article we need to
Yeah,
go
go
I'm
ahead.
over.
sorry.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead,
Go
bro.
ahead.
I
Good
could
Tree,
speak for days on this shit.
Good Tree launches social equity incubator, seeks to grow black entrepreneurship in cannabis. A recent Dope magazine article by this author looked into the exclusion of black people from legal cannabis industry. Blacks were disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs, with the Brookings Institution estimating that they have been around 3.5 more times more likely to be arrested for weed-related crimes than white people, even though consumption levels have been pretty similar per ACLU data. As several states have legalized marijuana, giving birth to the very successful and profitable businesses, black people weren't part of the picture. Only 4% of cannabis businesses are African American owned, according to Marijuana Business Daily. Seeking to address this racial inequality, major cities in California, Maryland, and Massachusetts have either started or are looking to start social equity programs. These programs strive to provide people of color with opportunities to enter multi-billion-dollar legal cannabis industry. Oakland was the first to kick off an equity permit program, and Los Angeles and San Francisco followed suit almost immediately. Massachusetts launched the first statewide social equity program in the country, and recently closed its round of applications for businesses looking to train those disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs. Cannabis investors can't miss the. Oh, let me not read that. What are social equity programs? Social equity is defined as a social policy that is concerned with the concepts of justice and fairness. It is by no means a new concept, but in recent times, the application of social equity to policy has been garnering more attention to communities that feel underserved by their public administration. A program rooted in social and equity is about increasing opportunities for those who haven't been given a fair shot at success in the past. The California cities mentioned above, for instance, are helping people by waiving application fees and allocating many of their license approvals to social equity applicants. But applicants still face major hurdles that cities can't really help with, like the real estate to set up shop, funding funding to help cover expenses like inventory and security, and a vertically integrated supply chain rooted in technology. That's why a few Howard alums decided to start Growing Talent, a minority owned and operated digital incubator that provides educational and training services to social equity applicants as well as minority and women led businesses in the cannabis industry. Minority and women led businesses. What does that even mean? Rashawn, Rashawn Everett, let me finish this. Rashawn Everett,
Okay.
Rashawn Everett is the founder of Good Tree, a vertically integrated medical cannabis delivery service and cultivation operations franchise. Beyond Good Tree, Everett's mission is a social equity. That's why he created Growing Talent, a social equity incubator launched in collaboration with cannabis compliance software developer Simplify, Simplifier, Simplifier. Sorry. The equity incubator aims to provide a comprehensive curriculum comprised of videos, written coursework, and other materials provided by the law firm Vicente Cedarberg. Applicants will be trained on how to use Simplifier's compliance platform to mitigate their risk. Focus areas include regulatory conditions, corporate infrastructure, business plan creation, property procurement, funding operations. The mission is to empower social equity applicants and communities that have been adversely affected by the war on drugs and the knowledge and training they need to run a Good Tree franchise. Social equity applicants who complete the incubator program will be able to receive investment capital and financing from Good Tree and Good Tree Capital, which issues loans in which issues loans in California, Washington, and Oregon to launch a Good Tree franchise. In addition, social equity applicants will be provided with rent-free property to open their dispensaries, the company said. Good Tree said it will provide applicants with proprietary technology that makes it easy for partners to operate a compliant dispensary. So that may answer one of your questions, Jack.
I see that. Yeah, I see that. They're literally setting you up for success. So
that's the idea.
yeah.
Yep.
So I'm still trying to figure out why people are just not running to this. But they're giving you they're literally giving you like literally making it so easy for you to get that money. So yeah, that's a great opportunity right here. This is awesome.
I know. You have anything you want to add to this?
Jack said, but I know I want to hear you and Complex's thoughts on what you said, women and minority.
I'll save that one for offline, but that's for after hours, man.
Yeah. No comment. But I am going to post a link here. We have a sister channel to this channel here. It's the Business Wealth Power channel. And that link there I just posted is a link to the playlist. Oh, wait. Oh, shit. Oh, wait. Let me repost it. That's not the one. But it's a playlist to all of the previous cannabis industry hangouts that we've done where we've discussed a lot of this stuff at length and in detail. This is more or less like this is follow up on a lot of the discussions that we had early in 2018 when we were kind of forecasting a lot of the legislation that ultimately ended up passing in the Farm Bill, and what this means for us as far as business opportunity, our seat at the table, with regards to the industry, where it's going to go globally. This is going to be a global industry. So, so many things that we could actually be looking at in terms of, again, I view this as a natural resource, much like oil or precious metals or anything like that. I view hemp and cannabis in much the same way. And you have to kind of look at this as the onset of, let's say, like the oil boom turn of the 20th century. So if we can adopt that mindset, then we will really start to see the potentials in all of this.
Mm-hmm. Jack, quick question: Are you black or are you a minority? Which one is it?
Oh, so you decided you're gonna go ahead and go there, huh?
No, I'll save it for offline because definitely don't need my our channel flag. So, all right, this next one is from WAMC.org. Social equity for new marijuana business in Springfield. As the largest city in Western Massachusetts readies for the arrival of legal marijuana retail stores, there is a move to help provide people who were harmed when selling pot was a crime. The Springfield City Council will consider adopting a social equity policy when it comes to deciding who will be permitted to legally sell marijuana to the general public. Councilor Justin Hurst, who chairs the ad hoc committee on marijuana regulations, said the city should set as target that half the marijuana retail stores in Springfield be owned and operated by blacks and Hispanics, black and brown people. Quote, there is no question that blacks and Hispanics have unfortunately suffered overwhelmingly when marijuana was illegal. And our hope is we can level the playing field by possibly giving them priority status, said Hurst. The proposal is based on a social equity program adopted by the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission. The policy is designed to, quote, create sustainable pathways to the adult use cannabis industry for people disproportionately harmed by marijuana prohibition. According to a cannabis industry trade group, 81% of the owners of the marijuana business nationally are white. Blacks and Hispanics are statistically more likely to have been arrested for marijuana crimes. Under the state policy, City Councilor Tracy Whitfield said pot store owners could be required to employ people who live in the neighborhood where there were high arrest rates for marijuana-related crimes. Quote, it is appropriate because it is appropriate because it was inappropriate for people to be targeted based on race and color of their skin, and they need a break now to turn their lives around. So it should be included in the host community agreement. Before a marijuana business can open in Springfield, the owner must negotiate a host community agreement with the city administrator that is subject to final approval by the city council. In addition to a 3% local tax on each sale, marijuana stores can also be required to pay impact fees. Hearst wants at least 50% of the revenue collected from all the marijuana businesses in the city to be used to revitalize neighborhoods that were disproportionately harmed by marijuana arrests. Quote, that could include the host community agreement that is negotiated by the mayor. So we hope to get his buy-in as well, said Hearst. The city council has approved regulations that will allow up to 15% of retail marijuana stores located in business and industrial zones. Additionally, the stores can only be on 58 streets, including many major commercial uh, thoroughfares. Why do they call it that? Other restrictions include 500-foot buffer zone with schools and a 50-foot setback from residencies. Each store will need to obtain a special permit from the city council that will include security and parking requirements. So again, let me read that paragraph again. According to Cannabis Industry Trade Group, 81% of the owners of the marijuana businesses nationally are white. How did that happen, Complex? Can anyone hear me?
Yeah. I think
Yeah,
he's away from.
yeah, I can hear you.
You have anything you want to add to
No,
this?
well, I know.
Oh, obviously we know that many people were locked up. When our laws were so that it was illegal. If those people will be let out, if those who are still serving, and once they're let out, will their records be expunged? Will be expunged of that in order for them to get in on this new I'll say this new deal. We'll see. Because it doesn't make sense for you to have a record because of using marijuana or dealing marijuana when it's legal to use and or deal marijuana. That
Well,
doesn't make
I think that's a part of Corey reform.
okay.
So I think there was I think under the Obama administration they have made Corey reforms that where people who are disproportionately affected by marijuana arrests and so on and so forth, they had their cases expunged for the most part. And so I know in the state of Massachusetts, if you try to look at someone's criminal record based on nonviolent offenses, you can't see anything.
Yeah. In California, basically, they largely don't drug test you anymore. That's kind of like the first thing. I mean, unless you're doing something where you have to operate machinery or something. But and then if they do drug test you, what they aren't doing is checking for THC. And then they are also expunging any cannabis related charges. So, I have I have like a personal friend of mine, but he was actually a personal friend of mine. He was actually pardoned by Obama back in 2014. I think that's when it was. He was actually pardoned by Obama. He was somebody who was, very much on the art scene in LA. Back, shoot, man, it was like 15 years ago, man. He was rolling in a car, and there was like a large amount of herb in the car. And for whatever reason, he caught the bulk of the charge, man. It wasn't even his car and stuff. So one of those things, man, where a lot of I said, man, I personally I got just some feelings about this type of stuff. So just overall though, it's something that we really do need to get back into because at one time, hemp was one of the primary crops that was grown here on these lands, North America. Hemp used to just grow all over the damn place. So it's something that's native. It's a native to this land. Multiple uses, so many things that can be done with it.
Hmm. Yeah, Jessica in the chat says in Tennessee you can't even do the hemp farm application if you had felony within the past 10 years.
Yeah, that's actually in the farm bill.
Hmm.
That's actually across the board, whatever state you're in.
Hmm.
Yeah, if you had a felony within the past 10 years, that's what I'm saying. There's gonna be those ways where they're gonna eliminate competition where it can be eliminated. And if it can be put into legislation, well, there you go. So yeah, if you've had a felony within the past 10 years, yeah, you basically can't be a hemp farmer.
Yeah, I wonder if you can be a part of a co-op though, because the literature doesn't seem to really go into that sort of intricate detail.
See that, yeah. I mean, there's guys that here like in California, for example, technically they can't grow, right? But okay, so they aren't growing technically, right? But they have the expertise, they have the knowledge, so they may just tell somebody else how to do it, right? So I guess from that standpoint, and I'm not trying to give any ideas or anything like that, but it becomes quasi, I guess, in its interpretation. Um, But yeah, that is something that's actually in the farm bill.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All right, we're cutting on time, so
Okay.
um, PRNewsWire.com criminalized to capitalize. Social equity pilot program seeks aspiring cannabis business owners with past cannabis convictions.
Hmm.
Largely missing from California's booming new legal cannabis industry are millions of potential cannabis entrepreneurs systematically criminalized by the war on drugs, according to Los Angeles management consulting firm Sierra, which today announced a search for participants in its pilot program for cannabis social equity. Participants in the Participants in this pilot program will receive mentorship training and access to business development resources, preparing for each cannabis entrepreneur to begin the process of Los Angeles City licensure as early as 2018. Funding and licensure are among the most significant obstacles for entrepreneurs affected by cannabis criminalization, according to Sierra founders Stephen Vasquez and Simon Radsons. Survivors of systematic cannabis criminalization are invited to attend a seminar in Mid-City, Los Angeles on July 19, 2018 from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. in order to learn if they may qualify for this pilot program. Sierra is seeking applicants who reside in South Los Angeles, have experienced a cannabis related criminal conviction, and are considered low income. As cannabis legalization sweeps around the country and billions of dollars pour into marijuana business, people of color remain shut into prison and shut out of wealth. Black Americans are 3.5 more times likely than whites to be arrested for cannabis consumption through the U.S. Census Bureau. Though the U.S. Census Bureau finds cannabis consumption rates are nearly identical across racial lines. Meanwhile, Black Americans own about 1% of the nation's thousands of legalized storefront marijuana dispensaries, according to a 2016 investigative report by BuzzFeed. The disproportionate impact of cannabis criminalization of Los Angeles' low-income and marginalized residents aroused the concern of Los Angeles City Council, which passed a motion in June of 2017 directing the city to develop a social equity program to decrease disparities in life outcomes for marginalized communities and address disproportionate impacts of the war on drugs in those communities. Sierra's social equity pilot program, designed by entrepreneurs within and outside the cannabis industry, will achieve these goals by shepherding entrepreneurs through the entire process of launching their cannabis business. What do you think about this complex?
You know, I tell you, man, for me, it's a mixed bag, right? Like okay, so you notice that it mentioned what we had talked about earlier, right? Where it was literally like if you were in specific areas, right? Because those are areas that back during like the drug war and stuff, they were literally targeted by like the LAPD, the SWAT, and all that stuff. So it's an open door, right? It's an open door. But I think that in order to truly maximize on it, it has to be met at all fronts. So I think that it needs to be met on the social equity level. But then there's also other venues and other areas in the industry where social equity isn't necessarily required, right? It's not necessarily like a barrier. There's no barriers. So again, in that playlist, there's multiple videos where we went in depth with regards to the crypto sphere as it relates to the cannabis industry, right? Commodity-based cryptos, cryptos that are related to different industrial activities related to hemp and cannabis. I mean, there's so many areas that are untapped, you know. So social equity is a part of the greater, grander industrial industrial picture. You know, it's the storefronts, it's the dispensaries, it's the companies that make like the edibles and the vape products. It's everything, but it's also the banking side, the fintech side, the cryptocurrency side, and see, and in those areas, man, it's largely untapped. I mean, or maybe on a future hangout, Mike, we'll have to pull up whatchamacallit. Oh God, what's the name of that website where we were doing the crypto analysis on that? We'll have to pull that site back up and dig through some hemp and cannabis based cryptos and kind of get a good look into what that whole segment's looking like. But there's all these other areas. It's still this industry is new and it's still very wide open.
Jack, you have anything you want to add to this?
No, just looking at the statistics, it was explaining in that article, man. I didn't, you know, they should offer these programs, especially to people who are affected, by who went to jail for it or whatnot. They should be the ones be first alliance for these programs because for number one, it's legalized now, and number two, it creates opportunity for them because they're not gonna. It's gonna be tougher for them to find a job, right? It's harder for a felon to find a job. So, or I think they should be the first ones to get this. But overall, man, just I just feel like black people are being shut out of this industry already from just seeing how many seeing what the statistics show. They're being shut out.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it.
Sound like Lionel has something to say.
Nah.
All right. Let me get to question 6. What are the benefits of a cannabis co-op? The benefits of a cannabis co-op brings economic equity and stakehold in inside a vertical business. Um, One of the biggest problems that Black people have is, as these articles are pointing out, is that they're the ones. White people make up 84%, over 80% of the constituents of cannabis businesses, storefront businesses, retail businesses. In order for Black people to get involved in those businesses, they would have to pair up with each other. You can't just be one guy on an island by himself. It's just not going to work that way. Going up against 2/3 or over 2/3 of the cannabis shop owners, retail shop owners, being white, you typically get shut out from that industry. So, and rather than to have one person involved, you want to have as many people involved who have been disproportionately affected by those unfair policies of stop and frisk and arrestment of certain individuals who just happen to be Black or of melanated complexion. Complex, you have anything you want to add to that?
Hold on 1 second here. Hold on.
look for something.
Yeah, no problem. So that's where a cannabis co-op comes in play. Just about everybody in the neighborhood who has been targeted, would benefit from a co-op. Cooperative business is actually very good. It's something that Black people had done going back to A. Philip Randolph during the um, unionization of help me out, Lionel. What was his business for A. Philip Randolph?
The porters.
Yeah,
Black
the porters.
porters.
Thank you, the porters, the Black porters. So that sort of trade unionist, multi business ownership is something that Black people have always done traditionally. That's how you got Black Wall Street.
No, absolutely. No. I agree 100%. And I think in order for there to be a robust Black business sector in the cannabis industry, it has to be built on a cooperative base. And there was like some sort of God, I have to dig through my Google Docs, but there's a kind of like a business ecosystem, kind of like a cluster image that I kind of created, where you got to have these different supply chain components kind of feeding into one, and then each one of those components also have their end user base, right? And so the whole schematic creates a business ecosystem environment where it supports itself from A to Z if you have all these critical components at play. If all of those various sectors are comprised of co-ops, well, what happens is that the work required in order to make those critical sectors work is distributed. The work is distributed, right? It's not one person trying to big boss it and all that stuff, but it's comprised of various entities and individuals who do a specific thing and who contribute to a co-op. And then that co-op provides a general basis of products and services. And then it contributes to a larger supply chain ecosystem. So it's co-ops are critical. I think I posted a link maybe about 15 minutes ago on a whole 1 hour discussion on how co-ops can compete with big business.
When it comes to these co-ops, what's a balanced amount of like owners when it comes to a co-op? Like how when it's not it's not too when you don't have too many in there. It's like okay, this is an even amount. It's a good amount. Like the synergy is good. Like what kind of dictates what's a good amount?
The lower, the more people involved in your co-op, the lower the barrier is for entry. So let's say you needed 100,000 for a co-op. You need to raise 100,000 for a co-op. and you only had 2 people, that means you have to bring 50 grand a piece. But if you spread that over 10 people, then how much is that then? 10K a piece, right? So now
Mhm.
your threshold, or not your threshold, but your bare minimum requirement to get in is actually much lower, and actually makes it much easier to get it off the ground and actually make it work. Whether or not there's some synergy there is left to be said, right? I mean, you're always going to have disagreements in any form of business, even on Google Hangouts, right? I mean, we've disagreed on many things, and we still figure out a way to actually come to a resolution, right? So that's anything for any business.
Yeah.
But if you took that same business, instead of that 100,000 that you need, and you spread it across 20 to 30 people, now it's so doable. It's that goal is so that objective could be easily reached. Now it's no excuse for you not to get it off the ground. Before Jack Charles, before you used to come onto these hangouts, I was a part of something called Ujima, and
Yep.
we do exactly that, right? So business co-ops, grooming the business, getting funding for the business, working on public banking infrastructure, all that type of stuff. A public banking infrastructure would public banking infrastructure plus a cannabis co-op goes hand in hand, because now you don't have to rely on Bank of America in Santander and these other mega multinational banks. Now the power of the bank is in the hands of the people, because it's public. It provides a democratic process, because the people of the public are actually the stakeholders.
There was a discussion of a California public bank in order to address the banking challenges of the California cannabis industry. So to speak to what Mike just said, California as a state considered, well, it's on the table right now. There's a working group that's still working through all of it, but they're essentially talking about forming a public bank in California. I think the one shining example in the United States of a public bank is the one in North Dakota, I think it is.
Yes.
Right? That's been in existence for what, 125 years, I think.
Hmm.
And the bank has been in the green, like like basically since its inception, because of its public banking model.
And the public bank would be no different than a public library.
Hmm.
Everyone gets to use it. Your tax dollars go to it, so you know exactly how much is going in and what's being spent and what it's being spent on. Um, and then that ties into um, other pieces of public infrastructure. You have public busing systems. You have public um, utility. Now your newest public utility would be um, 5G and fiber optic in the ground.
Hmm.
You take cooperatives and you add that on top of it, and now you can go to a public bank and actually get reinvestment into that cooperative to help subsidize it.
Yep.
So
I mean,
now it becomes community owned.
yeah, I was going to say, yeah, because that funding supports the entire co-op, which is basically a collective of producers. There's so many benefits to working in a cooperative environment. Shared resources. There's other people within the co-op that you can go directly to, right, to maybe get resources or things that you may need. So it's just a different type of business environment versus sort of like the supplier, wholesaler, retailer business model that we typically are familiar with, and that we relate to, here in a traditional capitalism based business environment. That's kind of how it operates, and in that model, all roads lead to China. But In a co-op environment, you may have like a collective of producers that may do specialty things that all contribute to, may say, like one end product, like a car, for example. Motor suppliers, battery suppliers, these suppliers, this suppliers, they all contribute what they do to the end product, and they do it in the form of a co-op.
And even when you want to look at a private corporation like Ford or IBM or anything like that, even Tesla for that matter,
Mm-hmm.
you see that those who work for the company are also shareholders as well.
Yep.
So
Yep.
despite the fact that it's not a direct co-op, they still get co-op benefits. So they get share, they get to own shares in the company. They get to have they get to be a part of the the quarterly shareholders calls. That's still there. That aspect is still there. In the private sector, in the co-op sector, the shareholders would be you and the rest of the people involved on that you work with day to day, and you guys can vote on what you think is the best direction for the co-op to go. And then you tie in public banking, you just have a more stabilized structure.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that we've talked about in the past is whether or not Black people are really capitalists in this country, because it doesn't really seem like it if you just listen to a lot of the talking points. A lot of the talking points don't really seem to revolve around capitalism. It really revolves around a different sort of economic system that we haven't really defined yet.
Yeah, no, that's very true. That's very true. Very true.
We could say consumerism because people like to spend, but where does the spending come from? There has to be a source.
Well, then that's largely going to be that's largely relegated to a worker class mindset, right? So essentially, you're working for what capital that you have in order to be the consumer, right? That largely drives, the consumer markets, right? You need people spending money, whether it's on J's, flat screens, cars, whatever, right? We need that consumer to be spending that money, and that's largely where we exist as a class of people. We exist in that consumer class, the spender class, not in the producer class. So we need to have a lot more of us actually transition over into the producer class, and then have those consumers spend with those producers who have crossed over or who are already there pre-existing. Okay, that's how you start to pull market share from other sectors into your own sector. But that's kind of like this cultural barrier we still need to work through. Getting Black folks to spend money with Black folks. It's a challenge. I mean, if you're getting your hair cut or something, yeah.
Let me read this article real quick. Marijuana Business Daily: The Future of California Cannabis Co-ops. Q&A with former CGA director Ezekiel Allen. One of the loudest pro-cannabis voices in Sacramento for the past 4 years has been executive director of the California Growers Association, Ezekiel Allen. But Allen is moving into the private sector to focus on promoting marijuana farming cooperatives with the holding company Emerald Grown, where he's the chairman. Marijuana Business Daily spoke with Allen to discuss the past of the future of MJ cultivation. How are cannabis cultivation co-ops going to work? The Secretary of State just created articles in corporation about the 3 weeks about 3 weeks ago. So there's a new form. It's a corporation structure. It's a new corporation structure. Nutshell version: co-ops will allow a group of smaller growers to realize efficiencies of scale without giving up ownership of their individual farms. I've tried countless pitches of, hey, I need $70,000 to help this farm. Venture capital doesn't care about $70,000, but when I approached an investor with a portfolio of 14 acres, sure, it's 60 different licenses, but they look at me and say, are you confident these marketing agreements are real? Sure, I'm confident. That's the advantage of having 14 acres. The cost advantage is already there, and the people, the expertise, they've they've been bringing products to market. A co-op is a democratically governed organization that is completely member owned. Under the state law, to be a member of a co-op, you have to be a licensed grower. So this is an organization where the growers will come together and they will achieve scale through unity rather than growing more. A single co-op currently is limited to 4 acres, and it's also limited to each individual member. The member has to be a natural person. It can't be an LLC or corporation. Each individual can grow 10,000 square feet or less. So you could have 16 Type 2 licenses, you could have 34 Type 1 licenses, or you could have about 72 Type 1C cottage licenses, or a mix of thereof. At base level, you need at least 3 natural persons, each of them licensed to grow 10,000 square feet or less. And then the limit of 4 acres limits you to about 16 to 70 people, depending on what size licenses are. I got big goals: 30% of the flower market by 2023 for co-ops. I know 600 growers that are not only eligible but are interested in being members of co-ops. The kicker here is the more I've been modeling this, I think we can beat big growers on price too. We can be the price.
Boom.
We can be the price leaders, the quality leaders, and the cultural leaders. Are there any existing co-ops yet? Two have filed. Two have filed Happy Spirit Cooperatives in the combination of Happy Day Farms and Emerald Spirit Farms, and then Uplift Cannabis Cooperative. And we've got four more that will probably file. The goal of the Emerald Grown, the company I'll be managing, is to see 30 cooperatives formed by the end of the year. Ultimately, we like to see 300 acres organized into cooperative production by the end of 2023. Spell out the business advantages of a co-op. If you and I were growers, we would not be allowed to coordinate what we planted, and we would not be allowed to coordinate our pricing. If we were members of a co-op, we would. One of the clear advantages that a large grower has is that they can plant much larger lots. They can coordinate their planting, obviously, and they can set their price. A co-op can do those things as well. If individual growers try to do that without co-op, they are committing a violation. It's collusion to coordinate pricing if you're not a co-op. What's the status lawsuit? What's the status lawsuit that CJ filed in January regarding license stacking? We agreed to a stay. The State Department of Food and Agriculture responded that until the emergency regulations sunsetted, and we had regular regulations that it was inappropriate to hear the case, we conceded the point. We conceded that point. Yeah, I don't really think the rest of it has any real relevance, but so the idea of a co-op. But
I was just gonna say, yeah, the earlier point that was being spoken to kind of supported what we were just talking about prior to us getting into this article. The benefits of co-ops and what they afford the individual grower. So just imagine a co-op, or in the scenario that he was discussing in the article here. So you would have like one main company, right, that produces like maybe like one end product, or okay, so we're talking about cannabis. So let's just say you have a co-op, and that co-op owns a brand, and we're going to call that Black Brain Trust uh, 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 cannabis flowers or something, right? And so within that product portfolio, let's just say there's like 4 or 5 different variances of or strains of cannabis that are produced under this brand. Those 4 or 5 are going to be grown by growers in the co-op in the co-op. Okay, so there's one central entity that all of the co-op members are actually a part of. That is that the end result is a product or a company that serves as the face for the co-op. So when they were talking about like license stacking and all that, I understand what that is, but the basic way a co-op is going to function in this manner is that you're going to have sort of like a face forwarding brand or company that represents the sum total efforts of the co-op.
Mm-hmm. If that answers your question, Jack. I know you have anything you want to add to this?
No, sir.
Yeah, I think we'll have a hangout just on co-ops, public banking, and fintech.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that'd be good. Definitely.
Yeah, I think we'll focus on that because I got some articles and stuff that I can dish out, and I can actually kind of give a synopsis of Ujima. I wonder if there's any questions from the chat. Actually,
Christian said when you said let's make one, I'm sorry, Christian, I don't know if he's still there. I was wondering what he was referencing. Was he talking about making a crypto?
I think he was at the opera or something like that.
Yeah, Phantom of the Opera. He's there with one earbud in his ear, listening in while pretending to watch the opera.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely think that we should have a hangout just on co-ops and public banking because I do think a lot of Black people are not aware of that segment of economics, right? In business, they just think that capitalism is all it is, and that's it, and there's nothing else to talk about. It's the U.S. dollar. It's I get paid a lot of money, and then that's it. There's nothing else to it.
Oh, okay, wait. He just responded. Okay, I said let's make a co-op. Oh, okay, gotcha.
Hmm. Yeah, well, the Brain Trust is actually a co-op in itself. It's an intellectual co-op.
Yeah, intellectual co-op. Nope, you're absolutely right.
Hmm. But I think we covered a lot, and we're actually an hour over.
Shit. Okay. Well,
Yeah, we hit.
we'll have to just revisit this again. Um, you know, co-ops, definitely. Hell, even the hemp and cannabis sector. I mean, we haven't done that on the Business Wealth Power channel for quite some time, but
Hmm.
it's very relevant given tonight's discussion.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, if nobody else on the panel has anything else in terms of closing thoughts, I think we'll just close it out. And thank you all for joining us. Yeah, thank
All
you
right.
all for joining us, and we'll see you on Monday for episode 130.
All right. Peace out, y'all.